Good morning, everyone. This is Grandmaster Arturs Neiksans once again, I'm back with a brand new stream. And since this is Sunday, at the moment, this is the new time slot for my boot camps. A special educational stream I do once a week about various topics in order so that the viewers understand the game of chess slightly better. Sometimes it's slightly more advanced, sometimes it's more basic. And in the previous editions, I've talked about various kinds of topics. Yeah, I've covered many opening setups for white and black. I've done boot camps about converting material advantages or how to do better calculation. Although probably in something like in a couple of hours, it's impossible to cover everything, but at least it's at least a glimpse in my mind. So what I'm thinking about this topic. Hey, Stevie. And today I've chosen a new topic, and it's going to be the thinking process of a grandmaster. And I'm going to cover several games depending on how much time it will take. And hey, Sandra, hello there. Haven't seen you for quite a while. And today I've picked several games of high-level GMs that probably you haven't seen these games, but I would like to explain the thought process, how a very good player is thinking during the game. Again, I mean, I don't know if this is really what they were thinking, but based on how I understand the game, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be very close to what they're thinking. Okay, now let me just show you now the board, and yeah. So the first game is going to be between, just a second, who was it? Rainer Buhmann against Luke McShane. They are not top 10, of course. I'm not myself a top 10 in the world. I'm just a good grandmaster, at least I hope so. And for example, Rainer Buhmann is a very experienced grandmaster from Germany, over 2600, 2650, something like that. And Luke McShane is one of the leading grandmasters from England who crossed 2700 barrier. He never became a chess professional. I find it actually quite interesting because he's such a strong player, and yet it's not his profession to play chess. I mean, I think he's in the banking sector or something. I don't know really the details. I just know he's considered to be the strongest amateur in the world. I mean, he's probably stronger than me since he's higher rated. So they played this game a couple of years ago, and perhaps I'll just go through it and explain you why I chose this game. All right, just a second, and here we go. Okay, so Rainer Buhmann was playing with white, and Luke McShane was playing with black. D4, D5. Yeah, not much to talk about this. This is the so-called Slav defense, extremely popular, extremely solid. Knight C3. Yeah, Knight C3 setups are extremely popular at highest level. You probably have seen Magnus Carlsen playing this opening at the highest level. Not exactly against the Slav, but various Queen's Gambit decline setups. A6 is the Chebanenko variation of the Slav. It's quite interesting variation. So black is thinking about to play b5 and clarify the situation, what's happening with the pawn on c4, and also sometimes either bishop g4 or bishop f5 ideas are there, so that queen b3 is not really that a big problem. Okay, we are not gonna dwell too much on this opening too much. Yeah, I'm sort of teaching you. See that? Yep, that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying at least. I hope I'll manage to do it. b5, b3. So that's a good move. That's still theory, so let's not dwell too much on that. So bishop g4, a4, b4, knight e2. Yeah, so knight e2. Why exactly knight e2? So I imagine when you are playing this game from white, you'll be probably slightly concerned. I mean, white just played knight e2. I'm allowing black to take on f3. This will create some weaknesses, doubling the pawns. It looks scary. But it also gives white a two bishop advantage, and the very good centers. For example, something like bishop takes on f3, g takes on f3. This is the kind of position that experienced player from black side wants to avoid. And one of the reasons is not only the g file, I mean, it's also nice to have the g file, but the biggest problem for these kinds of positions is black's position is quite static. So for example, I'm playing with black. I might play something like solid, something like e6, bishop e7, I could even draw it for you. Something like this, short castle, knight b7. But at some moment, you're going to ask yourself a question. What next? What next? And this is the thing which perhaps less experienced players are not thinking about too much, because all of the active plans involve active advancement with the pawns. And if those black pawns are going to move forward, they're gonna open the position. And opening the position is improving the power of the bishops. So that's why this two bishop advantage is one of the most popular little advantages that experienced players are aiming for. So if you follow a strong Grandmaster play, they are not exactly so lighthearted by giving away a bishop for no good reason. There has to be a good reason. So that's why many openings which promise white a two bishop advantage are the so-called minimal advantage that white is usually aiming for. Yeah, the pawn on f3 is also diminishing the possibilities for the knight on f6. Not exactly white wants to push with e4 immediately. I mean, the idea is there. It didn't happen. It didn't happen in the game. So Luke McShane was perfectly, he perfectly understood the problems of this idea. So he played e6. Yeah, e6 might have been slightly inaccurate move, but I imagine after knight bd7 as well, he was concerned about knight e5. This pawn is under attack, this bishop is under attack. So something like knight takes on e5, d takes. Might be difficult to find a good square for this knight. So knight e4 jumps under the f3, and knight e7 potentially drops a pawn on d5. So e6 makes perfect sense here. So this is what played, and again, white immediately takes control of the e5 square and is asking black some direct questions. Do you want to take on e2? Okay. White will get this two bishop advantage, and for black it will be quite difficult to be active. So of course, I'm sorry, not of course, I mean, yeah, this is exactly what Luke McShane did. I'm not so sure about that really, if that was a good decision. So perhaps something like bishop f5 was possible, but I imagine if I'm looking at this from the white's perspective, I'm thinking something like f3. f3, g4, h4, knight g3, and this knight on e5 is really, really unpleasant. Hey guys, yeah, thank you for the hearts. Yeah, or maybe knight g3, I mean, I don't know, maybe something like, yeah, exactly, I mean, knight g3, bishop g6, and perhaps h4. So h6 or h5, because of this threat, already is a big problem. So something like h6, now that's going to be eternal weakness, maybe it's even lost already. Bishop d3, queen c2, and say this pawn a goodbye. So imagine this was the reason why Luke McShane said, okay, I'm gonna take the bishop on e2, let's trade this knight, although I don't want to. I don't think he was happy with that, but sometimes we have to do what we have to do. No, it's not busted, I wouldn't say he's busted, just slightly worse. Bishop d6, seemingly normal development, bishop b2, and castle. Now, so far, okay, I mean, we could argue if black played the opening perfectly or not. I mean, probably he slightly misplayed it, but let's have a look at this position from the white's perspective. So now the question is, how many of you would play the automatic short castle here? Because this is the thing that we are taught probably in some chess lessons. Yeah, white is better. So something like, make a short castle, then play queen c2, then play rook c1, then play rook d1. Actually, one of the It's quite interesting. One of the funniest thoughts I've heard for some players is that first I'll develop the pieces, I'll make the normal moves, and then I'll think what to do. It doesn't work like that. And very good players, especially chess grandmasters, are starting to think about the plan as quickly as possible. And exactly that's why long castle is an option. But here comes a really tricky play from White. So he played Queen c2. And knowing how grandmasters think, because I'm a chess grandmaster myself, I imagine White is thinking like this. So I played I played Queen c2, possibly with an idea to make a long castle. I don't know yet. So I just played Queen c2 just because it's a good move, just because I'm gonna make it sooner or later, and I just first want to see how my opponent is going to react. And you never know how he's going to react. Yeah, so long castle is an idea, definitely. So for example, something like long castle, g4, h4, g5, h5, g6 looks wonderful. Yeah, it looks wonderful. So I imagined for black it would be a good idea to meet it with some kind of counterattack at the queen side, but the queen side is blocked. Yeah, the A pawns and the B pawns, they're blocked. I mean, nothing is happening there. So if black wants to punish white for the chosen strategy, I imagine he wants to play something like c6, c5 at some moment. So this is why queen c2 actually is perhaps a provocative move. So I play queen c2, and first I want to see my opponent's intentions. So for example, black sees, oh, you want to make a long castle, all right. Okay, I'm gonna play now c5. I'm gonna play now c5 and try to punish you not to make this long castle. But maybe white just played queen c2 in order to provoke this move c5, and provocation is a big part of a chess at a professional level. You wouldn't believe me, really. Sometimes these opponents, they're just sitting like behind a fortress and you just cannot crack through, and you are just sometimes provoking them to come forward you. So for example, after something like c5, I could already play something like d takes, bishop, takes on c5, and just make a short castle. And just say, thank you. Thank you for playing and opening the queen side so that my bishops and my heavy pieces are so much better. Yeah, maybe there was c-takes on d5. Yeah, maybe there was a c-takes on d5 and bishop f3 immediately. Just wanted to show you the idea. So queen c2 is a very smart move. And black played knight e4. Knight e4 is a very defensive move. It doesn't allow white to make a long castle. And for example, after something like f3, yeah, there's going to be queen h4 check. And probably if you have solved some puzzles at chess.com, you recognize this, right? f3, queen h4, g3, knight takes on g3, queen takes on h1, puzzle is over. So that's already a common idea in puzzles. Yeah, everybody's seen this. One of the early puzzles. However, since we played queen c2 and we made this idea happen that our opponent is thinking about a long castle and he has to evaluate the consequences, we forced our opponent to play knight e4. And now what we do, rook c1 couldn't have been included immediately, doesn't really matter, but the point is f5 strengthening the knight on e4, white just makes short castle. So imagine the order of the difference. For example, if here, instead of the queen c2, white had played short castle here, do you really think black would have played knight e4 and f5? Why knight e4? Yeah, exactly, white tricked him. So I imagine black would be thinking about how to get rid of this pawn on e5. Something like knight f to d7. Because this knight is not moving here, because the pawn on c6 is under attack, it might be problematic. So knight after d7. So knight e4 was a response against queen c2. And after rook c1, I don't really understand if this rook c1 was necessary or not, but the rook on c1 is gonna stand anyway. And after f5, short castle, suddenly black is in slight danger. So rook a7 was played here, and I already showed this position to a couple of my students, and I asked them, now imagine yourself, you're playing with white. What do you want to do here? And they're youngsters and they say, oh, I have to attack immediately. I mean, there's the open c file, c takes, knight c6, I try to crash through because I have the open c file. Let's check this. What happens after c takes on d5? So c takes on d5, knight c6, queen c6, and let's say something like, okay, there's knight e2, I just noticed, but for the sake of simplicity, I played a5. Yeah, thank you, Aztec. Thank you, appreciate that. So a5. And the question is, what did white achieve? We have the c file, we have the beautiful bishop on e2, but what else? What else? I mean, there's nothing else. But if we look it back from the retrospective, what did we do actually? We changed the pawn on c4, which is a good pawn, against the weakness on c6. What else did we do? We traded the very good knight on e5 against this terrible knight on b8, just to open the c file. So this is where the experience of a grandmaster comes into mind, and he knows he might use the c file, but not necessarily immediately. So this is why. First he got rid of the bishop, of the knight. After f3, knight g5, bishop d3. And one of the most favorite strategies by very good players is always in such closed positions where there's a lot of maneuvering, improve the pieces. You always improve the pieces. Yeah, about Jinan, about that break in the center. Now that's going to be a tricky part. So bishop d3 was played with an idea. Maybe I'll play at some moment rook e1. Maybe I won't. I mean, I want to check how my opponent is going to react. And grandmasters, they all play exactly the same. They slowly, gradually improving the pieces, creating some threats. And yeah, this is Isteax. What do you mean? This is a bootcamp. Maybe threatening e4. So a5. And again the question is, I asked this for my students and I asked them, what do we do now? So the most popular answer, e4. We play e4, we make the break in the center, we try to crash through. Let's check what happens. So e4, let's try to make this work. So let's say something like d takes, f takes. For example, let's say everything takes. There was maybe something even better at some point, or maybe with this move first. Takes, yumi, and rook d7. So again, the question is, what did we achieve? I mean, we don't have to push this breakthrough in the center just because we can. Is c5 a good move for black or for white? This is not a good position. You mean here? No. c5 is not good. It's not good because we are not doing anything. We're closing the potentially open c file. And again, this is the moment where experience of a very good player, and especially a grandmaster, comes into play. He knows there might be this option to play c5. I mean, I'm sorry, not c5. C takes on d5 and exploit the c file. He also knows he might play at the right time e4. It really depends how his opponent is going to react. So he's just slowly, gradually creating some threats. So the next move Rainer Movsesian did, keeping the pension, I like that. What he did, he improved the queen. Queen e2. Again, his opponent has to understand. Is he gonna play c takes, knight c6? Is he gonna play e4? Is he gonna double the rooks? Is he gonna attack at the king side? And one of the, thank you Vasilis, one of the good ideas that also experienced players are using against less experienced players, they're waiting for this mistake. Because you never know when your opponent is going to come forward and try to help you. For example, I'm just making these good looking moves and I'm playing against a youngster who just cannot sit and he has to do something, he has to show activity and he cannot sit. So for example, he's thinking, okay, this knight on e5, I cannot deal with it, so I have to trade it. So okay, let's trade it. Finally it's gone. So after, let's say, bishop e5, d takes, knight e7, I finished my development. But if I'm playing with white, I'm thinking, thank you, because this is essentially what I was waiting for. I was just slowly, gradually improving the pieces. I was waiting for a mistake, and now, wait a second, was it this idea to open this C file? Yeah, it's there. So, where do we draw the line? I hope I'll manage to answer this question during this bootcamp, Hope Noob test. So c takes, rook c6, that's a weakness. Bishop d4, rook c1, bishop b5. I say black already is busted, just busted. I mean, its knight are completely doing nothing, and there's no active play. So of course, Luke McShane was much more experienced than that, and after queen e2, he played rook c7. So he is getting ready against c takes on d5. So what does white do here? e4? And again, I asked this question for my students. Yeah, e4, try to break through the center. And no, he did not. Rook c2, slowly increasing the pressure. And here's the thing. I don't think black can really play c5 himself, because this contradicts against black's solid setup. c6, c5 opens the position, opens those deadly, potentially deadly bishops on d3 and b2. We can have a look at it. For example, here, c5. Is it possible? So I don't know, I mean something like d takes. Let's take here, rook c5. Okay, maybe bishop takes on c5 and c takes. Queen takes on d5 already looks really nasty. Something like, I don't know, rook f to c1. There's a pin, there's bishop c4, there's going to be very powerful bishops, this is a weakness. We are waiting for this. h4? What do you mean h4? Here, right? h4. Not so sure about h4, because the knight on g5 doesn't really bother white. I like the knight on g5, it's doing exactly nothing. So if I would play something like h4, then I'm creating a weakness on h4, so I'm going to need to intend this a little later. King h1 is an interesting move. I like that, but we are gonna get to king h1 a little later. Just be careful. Just be patient. So first, what white did is double the rooks on the c file. Rook c2, queen f6, rook c1, rook c8. Okay, so black is ready. Black is sitting here and ready to take on the d5. But luckily, we are playing the game of chess, and this is why I really love the game of chess. Of course, if there is a big fan of the checkers out there, no pun intended, but unfortunately in checkers, you have to take. You have to take all the time. If there is something you have to trade, you have to trade, and you're forced. In chess, we don't have to take. And that's part of the beauty of the game of chess. We can keep the pressure indefinitely. We can choose the right time and hope for our opponent to crumble under the pressure. This is how Karpov played. Not only Karpov, every single good chess grandmaster, maybe also international master, just good players who understand how chess works, how chess pressure works in game. You can apply immense pressure by not giving your opponent a clear way to play. Because, for example, McShane is a very good grandmaster. But if you would ask from the black's perspective, what is my plan here? What I'm supposed to do here? And this is the moment when even very good players, they start to fail because they don't have a clear plan. They don't know what exactly do to equalize the game. How I'm supposed to find a counterplay? So I imagine he was asking these questions to himself. He cannot do nothing. He couldn't even take on e5. So he was probably thinking, okay. I know all of this. What I'm talking about here. And I'm just gonna sit for the moment. Doesn't mean I'm gonna sit forever. I'm just gonna sit right now, passively, and wait for something to happen and wait for the right moment. So, white is the move. Black is ready to take on d5 and he's ready to trade a couple of rooks. Now again the question is, do we play e4? Is this the right time to play e4? We can test it. e4, d takes, something like f takes, and takes, I don't know, maybe takes, and queen e7, followed by c5, knight c6. Now, we compare this position. Does it look great to you? I mean, what are rooks doing there on the c file? Why did we do all of this? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, we do have these powerful bishops, but black is pretty much solid. He is very much holding everything, unless we manage to activate our dark square bishop somehow. Not good. And that's the thing. That is the thing what really makes a difference between a very good player and perhaps not so good player. There is no need to rush. And this is where Grandmasters excel more than others. So what Rainer Buhmann played here is King H1. And King H1 is a lovely move. This is a lovely prophylactic move with an idea. I might play G4 as well. And at the same time, white is waiting. White is waiting for a little help from black. Maybe he's going to play c5. You never know. Maybe he's going to take on e5. Maybe he's going to make another committal weakness. Maybe he's going to blunder something. So this increasing pressure is unbearable for black. So what black did, after king h1, knight f7, of course he wants to trade. Yeah, rook g1 is an idea. Rook g1 is an idea. So we keep the knight here, because at any given moment, if black is going to take on e5, now actually that's an interesting different topic. For example, here, if black would take on e5 with the bishop, of course with the knight it drops a piece. So if I have a take on e5 with the bishop, so the question is, with which piece do you take? So with which piece do you take? Which pawn? With which pawn do you take? F pawn or D pawn? And you know, there is this typical rule that pawns are supposed to take towards the center. I mean, everybody is trying to do it exactly like that. Why? There's always an exception. Here we have to take with the D pawn. Why with the D pawn? Because we activate the bishop on B2. Exactly, yeah, bishop d4 is a nice spot. So for example, something like d takes on e5, queen e7. We can still continue with the g4 idea, but I just want to show you, for example, something like bishop d4. The idea is to play bishop b6, and after c5, what we did, we provoked, again remember this word, provoked our opponent to be active. That's part of our plan, because it ruins his solid position. So what we do, you just go back, bishop b2. So you might think, oh, okay, you wasted 2 tempos. You wasted 2 tempos, bishop d4, bishop b2. It's not so simple, because black has made a lot of committal weaknesses. Now c takes on d5 is a big problem, g4 is a big problem, and look at those powerful bishops on b2 and d3. And I think black is just very close to be busted here. Instead, of course, this didn't happen in the game, and black played g6. About g6, I'm not so sure if that is a good move, but a good advice for black is very expensive. I don't know really what to suggest. So imagine black played g6 because he's gonna need to play it anyway. White is going to play g4, open the position to the king side, and increase the pressure. So this is exactly what happened. g4, of course you don't take, because you open these weaknesses to be targeted later. King f8. Now, what do? I think we have to open the position. And it's not the same. It's not the same with c takes on d5. Because c takes d5, c takes, we trade a couple of rooks, black is extremely solid, and only one weakness is on a5. Rook g1 is a good move. But first we take on f5. We clarify the situation a little. E takes weakens the pawn on d5. Bishop e7, 96, 94. It is possible. It is possible, but I'm not so sure that it stops the c takes on d5 threat, and the rook on c7 is unprotected. And again, please remember why we positioned the rooks on c1, on c2. That is to create the pressure. It doesn't mean we are going to take on d5 right now. It also doesn't mean we are not going to take on d5 ever. We'll just wait for the right moment. So after g takes, rook g1, the rook is transferred here, and the black rooks cannot so easily jump here. Queen h6, it's already very difficult to suggest anything better for black. And here, after a couple of nice improving moves, queen f3, second rook is ready to join here, rook g2, knight e7. Again, white is keeping the pressure at the queen side. I know, many people can't stand this pressure. I mean, they have to clarify. I mean, if there's something like pawns are creating some kind of a friction in the center, it's a very popular strategy. Okay, let's just take it. Let's just take it so that I don't have to think about it every single move. But Grandmaster don't play like that, because he knows that d takes on c4 is impossible. c6, c5 opens the position too much, and I might need this option to open the queen side at some point later. So this position, it's already a great idea to remember. Yeah, g7, yeah, it's very tempting, isn't it? But about the tempting moves, maybe there's already more than one win. White is winning completely here, completely. And it's important to remember one of the most important rules that was postulated by Aaron Nimzowitsch, the chess legend in the early 20th century, the author of the Mice System, evergreen book everybody loves to read, one of the early big books about chess theory and how to play better chess. And he was one of the first to say, maybe there was somebody earlier, but he is typically credited for the idea, is if your opponent has one weakness, what do you have to do? You create a second weakness. And this is the bread and butter of the strategy. Many times we have one weakness. I would say actually the entire queen side for black is a one huge weakness, because the pawn on a5 might be a weakness. C takes might be a problem. The pawn on c6 is a problem. Those rooks are defending the pawn on c6, which also is a weakness. I mean, I cannot even identify which exactly is the weakness. I would say one huge giant weakness on the queen side. So we need another. And this is exactly why Rainer Buhmann played g4. He played g takes. He transferred the rooks to the g file. He is seeking this other weakness. And now the question is, where is this other weakness? Can you identify this other weakness? And identifying the second weakness is part of your goal towards success. Rook g7 is extremely tempting. Rook g7 is going to be rook f8. And again, some people can't stand the pressure, so they want to play something like c5. They cannot stand that black is not taking on e5, so I just want to force him to take on e5, but you don't have to. e6, how are you gonna get to the pawn on e6? I'm not so sure. Something more real that you can target. There is what one potential weakness, and oh, that's good. Yep, rook g3. Landate already identified a problem for black. It's the pawn on h7. How do you protect the pawn on h7? c5 doesn't trap the bishop, unfortunately, because bishop takes on e5. It doesn't trap it. There might be an idea, of course, to think about something like knight f7, but c5, there's bishop e7. And knight e7 is the same, either rook d7, c5, bishop c7, or bishop e8. It's okay. So rook g3 was played with the idea to play rook h3, and this is a weakness. And after knight f6, here, queen f8, White, now look at this. White finally played c5. Finally he played c5, and this is where his strategy pays off. He was keeping this tension at the queen side for the longest time possible, and c4, c5 is a very paradoxical move, but it comes with a very specific idea. Win the pawn on h7 and double the rooks on the 7th rank, and sometimes making such radical decisions are the right ones. So this is what happened in the game, and after bishop takes on e5, d takes, knight has to go to e4, e4, g4 doesn't really matter, tell you honestly. And after rook h7, here, finally a trade, queen e2, and the queen is ready to join the other side. Yet h7 has fallen, and what's really bad for black's position is that white is not only keeping the pawn, he's continuing the initiative. So doubling the rooks on the 7th rank is still a very big problem. Queen a6 is yet another big problem, and black just cannot defend everything at the same time. He cannot defend the right side, he cannot defend the left side. And it's so much easier to focus on defending one spot. So that's why this Neiksans idea of creating a second weakness is so popular and so good. So black played here rook d8 with the idea to activate the rooks. And again, this is where really good players excel. So they're still keeping tabs on what his opponent might be thinking. So unexperienced and perhaps a younger generation player might be, oh, queen a6, double the rooks on g7 because that's my idea, that's my plan, I have to execute it. An experienced player is going to be always careful. If black is going to threaten with rook d3, a simple move is bishop d4, close it, and your threats are going to remain. They're not going anywhere. So bishop d4 was played just to close the rook on d3, king d7, queen a6, threatening this pawn, and that's it. I mean, black is completely paralyzed. So the pawn on a5 is going to fall. This pin on the 7th rank is completely a big disaster. So white just collected the pawn and went back. So it's already 2 pawns. And at this moment, Buhmann just decided to go for the checkmate. It's so simple. I mean, there's probably already more than one way towards the victory. Going for the checkmate is almost always the quickest way to win this. So the threat is to play a6, queen b4, queen b6 and try to mate. And the game ended in a couple of moves. a6, rook a7, rook f7. Yeah, actually this is the reason. Rook f7 is not necessary. But this is the reason why we are solving puzzles. We recognize the patterns, we recognize the ideas. Rook f7 just simplifies the position. So the idea is revealed after rook f7, queen b4. If king c7, there's going to be a mate. King here, there's going to be a mate. So the only last trick is queen b7. And after an intermezzo move, rook h8, black is losing everything. Everything. And of course, this is the moment when finally black understood this game is completely over. He could have resigned already a couple of moves ago. Okay, he was fighting until the end, and finally the game ended. So now the question is, now I'm gonna ask you, where black made a mistake? Can you pinpoint me the mistake? So again, trying to rewind what happened in the game. First, maybe it was not really a good opening, what black played out. White played extremely tricky, provoking this knight e4. f5 maybe was not the best decision that black ever did, but still this increasing pressure, threatening opening the c file, threatening to play e4, increasing the pressure, the c file, then opening the king set, creating the second weakness, then forcing the marriage, winning the pawn, then the second pawn, where black made a mistake. I mean, it's not really clear. You know, this is a very, I know I asked you a very difficult question, which is probably almost impossible to answer, but I don't think there's one clear mistake. It's a combination of inaccuracies. And black clearly misplayed the opening. So the line which he chose was not really good. He just automatically gave up the second bishop. White was having 2 bishop advantage, having a good center and a weakness on c6, so the advantage is obvious. Later, maybe f5 was slight inaccuracy, maybe he misplayed the position and was slightly passive, but again, I mean, where was his option to play more active? And this is the reason why very good players typically avoid openings which are solid but with no active purposes. Right. By the way, before we move on to the next game, I want to mention there is going to be a very special event next week, next Friday. Some of you already noticed that, and there's this chat command sub-bal. Next Friday, I'm going to have a special event, a sub-bal against Dina Belenkaya, and all of the subs who want to play, they will have to register. I'm going to post the link either in my Discord channel or the chess.com club for the subs as well. We are going to play against Dina and her dinosaurs. Should be fun, should be great. I so totally look forward to this. And the time control is going to be 3+2, 1 game per each sub. What is best? Me and Dina, we are going to cover every single game. So you're going to be on the big screen with 2 streamers analyzing your games, and we'll try to pinpoint the critical moments, how did you play it out, and try to provide some constructive commentary. So if you would like that, consider please to join the sub-bal. Alright, let's move on to the next game. And the next game is... just a second, let me find it. So the next game is going to be Sergei Movsesian against Gerigk Erasmus. Sergei Movsesian is super strong grandmaster. He used to be... Now the question is, was he ever 2-7 candidate? I think he was. Originally from Armenia, he was playing for many years for Czech Republic, for Slovakia. I think he moved back to Armenia. But again, I mean, I don't know really the details so well. 2-7-51. Okay, he was very good. And extremely good at positional chess. A very extremely nice and humble person. I'm very lucky to have to know him in person. And he played this game against Erasmus Gerigk. I don't know his opponent so well. I assume he's either international master or FIDE master. Pretty good player. And about this game. So this is going to be one of those rare games where White is playing out not with the ambition. And this is an extremely popular approach by a chess grandmaster. Not playing out ambitiously. Sometimes you just want to develop the pieces, build up a little house like knight f3, g3, bishop g2, short castle, and you want to see what's going to happen. So not exactly a very ambitious approach, because this is the way how, for example, very good grandmasters, they're killing the preparation against of their opponents. So for example, if I would play something like, I don't know, let's say e4, c5, knight f3, d6, the Sicilian Naiditsch, and I'm playing against a club level player. So he is maybe not really that strong, but he has studied everything possible on the Sicilian Naiditsch. He has bought this Chessable course, he has read everything, he's read every single book, and he's studied, he's playing correspondence chess, etc. So for example, I will play against him some sort of a topical line of, let's say, the Sicilian Naiditsch. There's a good chance I would get nothing after the opening, because he has studied so much on this particular theory, he likes the opening, and that is also one of the reasons why sometimes very good players are just avoiding the theory, just playing something else. Knight f3, g3, knight f3, e3, c4, e3, b3, etc. Just to get the opponent out of the opening where he has to think himself and to rely on his ability to play the bear chess. So, knight f3, this was played, g3, b5. Yeah, about b5. Oh, Abgeschlaber, thank you for the sub. Yeah, I guess you want to play in the sub-bal? Yeah, you're much welcome. I'll I'll update information with all of my subs about the sub battle against Dina. Just stay tuned. By the way, while I'm mentioning it, I want to remind that I have, for something like less a week, a new Discord channel. I didn't have it. I didn't realize how important it is. I just opened it earlier this week. It's still new, it's still under construction, but we already have quite a lot of fun discussion there, and this is the place where I'm gonna organize all of the sub battles and just have some fun discussions off stream with the community. Right. So b5 is quite an interesting move actually. I've played it myself with black because the idea is quite simple. So instead of the classical idea b6 and bishop b7, black plays immediately b5, and b5 is directed against c4 and d4. So you might think, wait a second, where's the difference? Where's the difference? There is a huge difference. For example, I'm playing a Catalan. Hey, Abgeshlavet, thank you, appreciate that. So for example, I'm playing the Catalan. So I could play d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, g3, bishop b4. Yeah, this is quite a topical line. There's this tricky check on b4, and after either bishop d2 or knight b2, I already don't remember which is the best move. Black has a number of options, either bishop b7 or bishop d6 or a5, whatever. So sometimes some players are trying to change the order of the moves, and especially chess grandmasters. So what they are doing? So I'm thinking, okay, I might play first knight f3, d5, g3, knight f6, let's say d4, e6, bishop g2. Now, do you see the difference? There's no check on b4. So you can give me a check, of course. I mean, I'll appreciate that. You'll play bishop b4, I'll just play c3, then short castle, and maybe I'll continue with c3, c4. And this is the reason why there are some tricky moves in order to stop this c4 to happen later. For example, here, black also, by the way, has a move b5. So he can play b5, bishop b7, knight b7, and just avoid this discussion with c4. So going back, why opponent of Sergei Movsesian, he played b5, is to stop the c4. Because if you would play here, for example, something like b6, which is completely normal move, after bishop g2, bishop b7, short castle, let's say e6, now I've already skipped some theoretical lines where black is playing bishop b4. It's tricky. So that's why b5 is really interesting stuff. And b5 was played, bishop g2 here, and d3. Yeah, d3 is quite a traditional approach, either with the intentions to play c4 or e4. That's completely normal. e6, e4, d6, castle here. Okay, so far, black did nothing wrong. And I imagine he must be feeling himself quite good, because white is playing out an opening not exactly in the most ambitious way. And here comes a really marvelous move by Movsesian, which engines maybe don't really understand it, but I appreciate it as a player. And this is how a great player is playing. So I would be asking, perhaps to somebody who doesn't understand these nuances of the openings and how the chess should be played, how would you play here? So the traditional response would be, oh, I need to develop the pieces, right? I mean, this is how we're supposed to play. So for example, I have underdeveloped the knight on c3. I need to develop it, right? Okay, knight on b1, it has to be pushed on c3. Okay, knight c3. Let's say black is playing a6. Oh, okay, now I have the bishop on c1, which needs to be developed. So I'm going to play something like bishop g5. Just a seemingly very active move on g5. It's doing something there. I don't know what really. After h6, okay, I mean, I don't know what to do exactly with this bishop. So, okay, let's just trade it. Bishop f6, bishop f6. Let's make some seemingly normal looking moves. Rook e1, because everybody is playing rook e1 for whatever reason. And after short castle, the queen is underdeveloped. Queen d2, c5, rook d1. And now we start to play. This is so funny, actually. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You have to start to play a lot faster than that. and rewinding what happened. First mistake was, why did white play bishop g5 and bishop f6? You don't want to give up your bishop for no good reason. There needs to be a reason. Why is that? The position sooner or later is going to open. If you check your games that you have played, let's say the last 20 games, how many of these positions remained closed? Can you name me a number? I don't know, maybe one? One game maybe? I don't know. I mean, how do you keep the position closed? It's gonna open. Yeah, maybe one. I don't know, maybe. Every single game is going to open sooner or later. And there was this very nice joke, I think it was a joke by Garry Kasparov, the former world champion, I think one of the best players in the history of chess. It could be argued, is it Magnus or Gary, doesn't matter. And he said that even the worst bishop is better than the best knight. It's not true. It's not true. But the idea is there that you can have a bad bishop and it can be improved to devastating effects. So this is a misplay position for white. You don't want to play like that. You don't want to develop the pieces just because they need to be put on some random square. Yeah, some knight c3, bishop d2, or bishop e3, or bishop g5, rook e1. Now I'm going to start to play. So Movsesian did exactly the opposite. He's not developing any pieces. He is identifying the first target. And that's what I really love. And it shows a great class of a player. So he played this innocent looking move, c3. And if you ask the engine says, what is this? What is c3? This is a ridiculous move. So where's the idea? So the idea is actually very smart. White is targeting the pawn on b5. So for example, let's say black here played c5, which is completely normal. Yeah, fighting for the center. This cannot be a mistake. And after a4, let's say black would play the normal looking move a6, keeping the control of some squares. The rook on a8 is defended, but now he starts to experience some real problems with the pawn on b5. And for example, something like takes, and I don't know, either knight e3 or queen b3, which is the better move. I don't know. Let's say knight a3. So knight a3, I'm starting to create some pressure. And very often, good grandmasters start to play like that. They identify one little weakness very early, and they start to pressure it, and they're looking where the situation is going to develop. Maybe it's not going to be much. Yeah, maybe the opponent is going to find a very good defense and everything is going to hold and he's just going to find new targets and new ideas. But there is a good chance that the opponent is going to make a slight mistake. For example, here after knight a3, you might ask, why not b4? Yeah, why not b4? I think the reason is c takes. C takes, and now the question is, can I play queen a4 check? This is what I was aiming for. So that's a double attack. Here, check. And something like knight b d7 and... Okay, queen b4 is d5, but knight c2. Knight c2 and take with the knight. So this already seems something. So that's a problem. That's a problem right there. This pawn on b4 is something that black needs to attend. So white already is targeting it with knight b4. Yeah, probably it's already lost. So this is not good. Let's say if black would play something like bishop c6, we could continue with, I don't know, maybe queen b3, queen b6, increasing the pressure with e5, takes, knight e5. Now that's a weakness. Takes, b4, maybe check. Okay. I already see what the engine is saying here. I have our engine running in the background. It says, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I just want to show you this idea that sometimes it is possible to evolve a little annoying pressure after the opening into a full plan. Yeah, that didn't work here, but this is what I will be thinking about, how to capitalize on an early little pressure. Instead, Instead, the opponent didn't play like that. Movsesian's opponent didn't play that. And after a4, I imagine he recognized the problem. He recognized White's idea. So he played b4. Yeah, he played b4, which is completely normal looking move. You are closing the a file. You are not giving the knight the square on a3, and the pawn on b4 might be easier to defend. Now comes the next class move. So Movsesian here played a5. I like this move. I really do. Because the move pawn on a5 is removing the access and defensive resources for the pawn on b4. For example, something like queen a4 check already is the big problem. Another idea is to push a6. For example, black would play the seemingly normal looking knight c6. Now, after a6, bishop c8, e5. Now, can you evaluate this powerful bishop on g2? Because you cannot take it. You cannot take on e5, you're going to lose the exchange on a8. There is a rook under attack. So after e5 and let's say something like knight e5 makes sense. Yeah, it's difficult to tell what's the best here. Maybe c4, maybe d4, maybe takes, but black doesn't look ready for this. This bishop on c8 was essentially a loss of two tempi. Bishop b7 and bishop c8, maybe c4, maybe d4, I don't know yet, yeah. Actually, I think it really makes sense to play something like the c4, knight b6, or knight c7, and maybe d4, yeah. Something like this. This looks completely normal to me. Completely normal. I would absolutely consider this. Try to open the position as quickly as possible. Try to capitalize on the fact that white is ahead in development. This didn't happen. Just trying to explain the thought process of the opponents. And after a5, he played the short castle. Seemingly a normal looking move. Take on b4. Now this is going to be a weakness, but I really like how Movsesian is playing out next. He takes on b4 with a clear intention what his game plan approximately is going to be. And this is again one of those tricky topics I like to talk with my students. For example, we're talking about the strategy of the game plan. And one of the favorite examples why having a strategy is so important is I like to tease my students. I ask them, please draw me something. Yeah, please draw me. And then comes the disbelief on what? What I'm supposed to draw? No, you draw me. Please draw me. Start to draw. I don't know what. I mean, what I'm supposed to draw. But this is exactly the same what's happening in a chess game. You're playing something and you have no clue what you are drawing there. So for example, I would ask you to draw something. Just play something. Notoriously bad at drawing, but I think you want to have at least an idea. Otherwise, if I'm going to start to draw something, am I going to draw a house or a dog or a dinosaur? What is it going to be? What's the idea? What do I want to draw? I have a game plan. That's essentially the same. So I'm asking you, for white, what is your plan? What do you want to draw here? And I don't know. Please figure it out. So, of course, I mean, Movsesian figured it out a lot sooner than that. And he figured out there's a very nice outpost on b3 for his knight. Right. So he played knight bd2. Knight bd2, knight a6, knight b3 was played. Again, why this knight a6? Because black is concerned that knight c6 is going to be answered with a6 and e5. Now, again, remember this idea of this bishop on g2 opening the long diagonal. And I've played a competitive chess for many years, so I can totally guarantee you this. It's extremely difficult when you're calculating some lines to draw the line. Which are the real threats and which are the illusory threats? Because they seem the same. They seem exactly the same, but you cannot understand, is this a6, e5 a threat or not? Maybe not now, maybe a move later. So this is why experienced player is trying to even solve these so-called illusory threats. So he doesn't need to worry about them. And this is why black played knight a6. So knight a6 was played, knight b3, queen d7. Yeah, again, about black's moves, I'm going to talk slightly later. I'm just going to show it from the white's perspective. Queen d7 was played, bishop e3. Yeah, bishop e3. About this move. It might have been possible to play h3 earlier, but I think this is a part of a tricky approach because it allows knight g4. Hey, head. Yeah, I see that. Maybe, yeah, that might be a common problem. So it allows knight g4. And now the question is, what would we do after knight g4? And again, I think the reason is this. You don't want to allow the bishop trade for no reason. Rook e1 or queen d2, black is just happy. He's just happy to take this bishop because, again, remember, the position is going to open sooner or later. It is going to open. Even if you think little about this bishop on e7, it could potentially become the best piece in the game because you are going to miss your dark square bishop. But I think why Movsesian allowed this move is provocation. I think so. So his idea was perhaps to play bishop f4, then to play h3, and black knight will have to go back to f6, and seemingly white has won a tempo for bishop f4. So that's again one of those small tricks that Grandmasters are trying to employ during the games, and again, his opponent has to understand. So for example, if he is going to play knight g4, he knows such an experienced player as Movsesian is not going to trade the bishop away. So he's going to retreat with the bishop on d2 or bishop on f4, most likely. And then what happens after h3? Now, do you include this move? Do you include knight g4 if you know you will have to return to f6 a couple of moves later? Probably you don't. Probably you don't. And exactly this is why black didn't do that. And he played rook f to c8. Now Movsesian played h3, queen e8, and now. And now comes the real great move. Maybe there is more than others, but I think again this relates to what I was saying. Please draw me something. And white has a clear plan what he is doing here. He is improving his pieces. So again, it's quite important. We have to ask ourselves what we are going to do here, because you don't want to make generic good-looking moves. Queen e2, rook c1, rook e1, king h2. You're losing control, and this is why white had a very good idea what he's doing here. He is going to take over the center. Knight f3 to d2 is seemingly a retreat, but it's allowing for white to grab the center with d3, d4. And maybe, just maybe, at the right time, e4, e5. And now, this is quite interesting. For example, I know many club players are basing their strategy like this. So, for example, they could play knight e2 with a direct idea, e5, and this trick is going to work. This is not how good players are playing. e4, e5 idea, with the idea to make some Zwischenzug captures on f6, so the bishop on b7 is under attack, might be a bonus. Might be a bonus, but really good players are not caring about it so much because they expect that his opponent is just going to find it. His opponent is going to find the best move and he's not going to miss e5, so he is trying to build a good strategy. So if e5 is going to work, oh, great, yeah, thank you for the free point. I didn't expect that, but normally good players don't base their strategy on cheap tricks. So he played knight e2 with the idea to play d4, rook e1, and next moves I'm gonna show you. So black played rook c7, here here with some ideas to play knight c5, so this is why d4 is now seriously limiting those knights on a6, on d7. Rook c8. Now this is again extremely interesting moment. Black is thinking about rook c2. And this is the moment where a class of a very good player makes a huge difference. I would ask the question, what would you do here? Now I'm slightly curious what you'll say. I mean, not like I want to belittle somebody who doesn't understand this position slightly less, but I just want to explain the difference of a Grandmaster. Why Grandmaster is thinking how he's thinking, so all of us, we can try to improve in chess and get better. So why, or what would you react? Yeah, rook c1. Exactly, because seemingly rook c2 is a big threat, right? Another idea, someone else. Rook c1, yeah, as well. Yeah, spooky. I see that. I see that. Yeah, rook c1 is very logical. Bishop f1. This is already quite advanced. Knight c5. I'm afraid it's going to lose some material because there's a pawn on d4. You don't want to do that. d4, d5. You know about the d4, d5. Please remember the previous game of who was it already? Rainer Buhmann against Luke McShane. Please remember the previous game. If you want to do something like that, dramatic push in the center, it needs to be prepared. It needs to be prepared. You just cannot fire it away and just hope the cards are gonna align, everything is going to be fine. You need to have a proper piece activity, and d5, unfortunately, weakens quite a lot of squares on c5 and e5. We just played d4 to take them away. So probably not. Here the idea is this, it's very difficult to get the right answer if you're asking the wrong question. And this is super, super, super important. So I would ask myself, how I'm supposed to defend against rook c2? You'll never get the right answer, never, because it's already the wrong question. You're asking the wrong question. So what is the right question here? What you have to ask yourself. First question, the very, very first question. Yeah, bishop f1 looks good. This is what was played in the game. But the question our Grandmaster is asking, applying pressure? I mean, okay. But you don't have to ignore the threat. Don't ignore. Ask the right question. And the right question is rook c2 a threat? Now that's the right question. Is rook c2 a threat? Yeah, is it a threat? And now that you start to look at this, is it a threat? Is it a threat? Is it a threat? I mean, do I have to trade rooks? Or can I do something else? Because again, remember, a good player is trying to draw something. He has this picture in his mind, and the right strategy almost always is I have a clear picture of what I want to draw, what is my intention, what is my game plan. I know the order of the moves I want to execute it, but I always will pay attention what my opponent is doing. So what I want to do, I want to still execute my plan, and with the right hand kick off my opponent's plans. So that is the best, absolutely always. Hey Angelika, how are you? Queen e2, rook c2, queen b5. Queen b5, that's interesting actually. Yeah, attacking the bishop on b7. I didn't think about that. But the question is, what was our plan first? Maybe I didn't explain exactly. Hey, hello there. I didn't explain exactly in detail, but I think something like bishop f1, bishop d3, and this bishop is looking towards the king side. It's some e45 ideas, and there's an attack at the king side. So if you would ask the right question, you'll understand rook c2 is not a threat. So for example, bishop f1, this is what played in the game. After rook c2, bishop d3, rook b2, this simply drops something after knight c4. It doesn't work. It's not even a threat. But again, if you start to asking a wrong question, how do I defend, you'll never get the right answer. And how the game can possibly go wrong in this situation? Imagine yourself, you're asking the wrong question. Oh, okay, so rook c2 is a threat. I already said it myself in my mind, this is a threat. So I'm gonna react to it. I'm gonna forget about my plan. So this is a threat. Okay, I'm gonna react. So instead of bishop f1, I'm gonna play rook c1. Let's say trade, and now black is going to play something like knight f6, threatening queen b5. And I would think again the same. Okay, queen b5 is a big threat, and the pawn on a5 is under attack. I need to defend it. And I defend it with knight b3. So the queen b5 is not a threat. Remember what I told you about those real threats and illusory threats? Here it is. And now black plays something like queen a4. And I think, okay, queen a4 and queen a2 is a big threat. There's something threatening. I need to defend. So I need to defend against queen a2, and I'm playing something like queen b1. So black plays, it could go forever. Something like bishop d8. Okay, so he's attacking the pawn on a5. I need to defend. And once you'll start to take this road, there's no looking back. You'll be reacting and reacting and reacting, and this is a common problem. And that's why Grandmasters typically try to avoid this, try to react. They have a clear picture what they want to draw. I know what I want to draw. I know what is my plan in this game. So I'll try to execute it with right hand, kick off my opponent's plan. So let's go back. So bishop f1 is a great move because rook c2 is not really a threat. And black played knight b8, whatever. I mean, I don't know what was the idea. Maybe something like this. Yeah, reacting to non-existent threats. Think about this. Think about this in the future and try to avoid this. It's not a good approach. Yeah, bishop d3 was played, knight c6. Queen e2 was played, kick off the knight on a6, knight b8. Alright, so here, I think white has managed to achieve a lot. He has this beautiful center with the pawns on d4 and e4, beautiful bishops on e3 and d3, and quite good knights, which are like helping each other on b3 and d2, and a lot of space advantage. So for black, what does he have? I mean, he has some pieces there. The queen side, pawn on b4 might be a weakness. On a7, this pawn might be a weakness. So now the question is, how a Grandmaster should approach here? Reactionally, chess might be a mistake. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to pinpoint that topic so that you'll think about that, at least in your games, because I've sometimes done it myself, even being a Grandmaster. Again, like I told you, I mean, once you take this road, there's no turning back, and you just have no time anymore to do what do you want to do. I mean, what was your plan? Because you're already reacting. Now the question is, what should white do here? So we have the center, we have beautiful pieces, everything seems to be ready. So the last thing you want to do is, again, I mean, maybe I'll start it from a different perspective. A Grandmaster is feeling the right moment for action. So what do you think? What do you think would be the best way to continue here? In which direction would you be looking at? Aggressing for the king. That's good. I like that. That's good. Black's pieces are on the queen side. Exactly. It might be a potential kingside attack. But again, please have no illusions. No illusions, because, I mean, you still need a million tempos. F4, G4, G5, H4, H4, G6. I mean, it's gonna take forever. And the question is, are you really ready? Are you really ready for attack at the king side? Yeah, I think something with d5. And such threats are best if disguised. So the problem here with d5. So for example, d5 is very, very tempting. d5, the threat is to win the pawn on a7 with the bishop. So let's say takes, and something like knight e5. So we gave our opponent quite a bit of activity. Maybe this is still good, by the way. I mean, the engine clearly likes it, the way I can see. But, I mean, still this knight on e5 is creating some counterplay. So do we want it? I think a good player will realize this threat of d5 is going nowhere. The pawn on b4. Yeah, how do you want to target it? Something like rook a4 doesn't really work. a6 and d5. About a6 I'm not so sure, because if you are now pushing the pawn on a6, the rook on c7 now protects the pawn on a7. I think I really like where the pawn is standing right now, and black cannot really react with this by playing a7, a6, because it weakens the b6 square. And bishop b6 is now going to be a big problem. Rook c1... I don't know how it really helps with your plan. What I wanted to say is, I think our idea was to push d5, but d5 allows black some counterplay with knight e5. So we need to improve and hide it, and hide the idea. Now I think it's a 4. That's a smart move. It's a wonderful move. And f4 is a multi-purpose move. Queen g4 also, maybe guys, I mean, maybe there was queen b5, no, queen g4, bishop h6, yeah, but it's answered by bishop f8. I don't think you're ready for that. Yeah, that's a very strong center. And yeah, f4 first, but not necessarily only with the idea play d5. It really depends. It really depends how the opponent will react. So for example, had black played something like bishop a8, yeah, probably it's still going to be d5. If he had played d5, I think it makes very much sense now to close the position and start the attack at the king side. And this is why you played f4. Yeah, e5 without the, although e takes actually also is good, because white is extremely is very active. I guess quite a number of threats there. But e5 closing the center, threatening f4, f5, and now I hope you can appreciate the bishop on d3. a6 might be a good move to include. Maybe even before e5. Yeah, if he would manage to do that, include a6 to completely kill the bishop, then play e5, f5, g4, and look at that bishop on d3. It's looking at the king. And I always believe that pawn structure, which you have, is normally showing you a direction where should you play. So for example, let's have a look at black's pawn structure. f7, e6, d5. That typically shows you the direction where you should play. That's the queen side. White pawns are d4, e5. That shows me direction, probably towards the king side. Yeah, f5 is incoming, so for black it's world of hurt, definitely. And this is why he played bishop 8 he played, and now d5. Now d5 comes a big threat, and after 98, 94, what is this? I mean, what is black doing here? Because it's every single piece, almost every single piece on the 7th and 8th rank. Knight b5 is incoming threat. And I think this is actually one of those moments when Grandmasters feel the right moment to strike. Because they're slowly preparing, gradually improving the threats, like in the previous game of Rainer Buhmann against McShane. But then there are these moments when you need to act decisively. You need to strike. But yeah, identifying the right moment, it could be a little tricky. So knight b5 is a big threat. The pawn on d5 doesn't really matter. Yeah, a6 was played. And this was smart. Now this was smart. So a6 is offering bishop a6. Do you want to take the pawn? There you go. Take on a6. But the question is, why would white want to do this? Trade this beautiful bishop on d3 for that terrible knight on d8. Or on b8, I apologize. So knight on b8 is extremely bad, extremely passive. And there's a new weakness. There's new weakness. Just a second. There's a new weakness on b6 square. So knight c4, knight b6 already becomes a huge problem for black. And this is what was played. Knight e7, knight b6. You couldn't really take, because bishop a6 now is going to decide the game. So rook b8 was played, and bishop takes on a6, and this is impossible because of, yeah, knight e6. Yeah, knight e6, and black loses quite a lot of material, and the game is going simply to end. Yeah, instead of that, after bishop a6, knight c5, the game ended very quickly. And again, yeah, just a little moment. Again, about this moment, I think I explained to you previously, is when you are already having an excellent position and very close to winning. So you have the extra pawn, you have a lot of better pieces, and a good player will always be careful until the end. The job is not done. You need to be careful. You need to be careful not to miss anything. So the pawn on e4 is still under attack. Even, for example, if the engineer would say here, a6, a7 wins on the spot. Why? Why would you want to allow any complications whatsoever? So Grandmaster, again, is thinking, I have everything under control. I have a winning position. I have extra material. I don't want any funny business. I have to lead this game towards a logical result, which is white wins, and avoid any unnecessary complications. So for example, I'm playing here, and I suddenly there's an opportunity to make a beautiful sacrifice. I know there's this artist speaking inside you, and there's this beautiful sacrifice with her. I mean, you can sacrifice something, and they're so beautiful looking, but the consequences are not clear. Do you go for this? I don't think that's a good idea, because again, it's all about keeping control in the game, and you don't want to do that. So bishop f2 was played by Movsesian, keeping the pawn on e4 alive. Pawn on d5 is protected by the knight on b6. Black player, he was just a second. He was something like 24. Something like that. I think so. Just a second. Yeah, 2400, something like that. And after bishop f6, here. Yeah, the game got slightly more complicated, but white managed to convert the game and fend off any counter attacks from his opponent. Yeah, and this a-pawn in the end decided the game, and he simply collected an exchange and made sure he's not missing any incoming counter attack. Yeah, so okay, I mean, those final moves, they didn't really matter because the game was essentially over. So when you're in such a position, I think you want to simply simplify the position. So for example, I have this position. I don't have to win every single extra material on the board. I want to simplify. I want to trade queens. I want to trade rooks. I want to trade a couple of pieces. I still have so much extra material which should be easily winning just because of the a-pawn. And just slowly, without any adventure, I'm just going to finish the game with a logical outcome. All right. So this was the game, the second game of Sergei Movsesian. Extremely strong player. He used to be, yeah, the chat says 2750. I don't know really what was his rating peak. I know he was something like 27, 2650, absolutely, yeah, definitely higher than that. Right. So the next game, you're gonna love this. 20, yeah, he was 27. So the next game is going to be Maybe I'm gonna make a different tour of what I wanted to show you. The next game is going to be Arkady Naiditsch against Alexander Belezky. Arkady, he is... that's quite interesting, actually. He was born in Riga. I'm living in Riga. I'm Latvian, Grandmaster, and he was one of the big talents in Latvia in the middle of 90s. He was born in Riga, born and raised. He left with his family for Germany at the age of 12. I think so, at least. It was age 12 in 97, maybe. I mean, I still remember we used to play in the World Youth Championships in Cannes, France, in 1997. Yeah, that was the only time we were playing together for Team Latvia. I was playing under 14. Yeah, I'm also from Riga. Yeah, magician from Riga. I was playing under 14 and Arkady, he was playing under 12. So this was the last time he played for Latvia. He got the second place in World Youth Championships. I think the first one was Alexander Ryazantsev. I still remember it quite well, these championships. It was quite nice. Yeah, so he moved to Germany. For some time he was representing Azerbaijan. I imagine he had a lot of friends there, and now he's back. I think so, at least. I read in the news that he has left Azerbaijan, and actually he's streaming. He's streaming not right now. I mean, I don't know if he's streaming right now, but he's also has a Twitch channel, GM Arkady Naiditsch, something like that. I don't remember exactly the title. I saw him one day. I think so. He's back. He left Azerbaijan. At least I think so. Okay, I don't want to spread the rumors. This is what I read. I mean, maybe I'm just wrong. Okay, so he was playing this game against Alexander Belezky. I don't know, Alexander Belezky, maybe about 24, 25 level. Not a Grandmaster. Maybe he's a Grandmaster. Okay. But that's not really so important. That's not really so important. I want to show you this game. And this game... Knight e2. Just a second, I'll correct my lights a little. They seem to flicker a little. They're flickering here and there. Okay, so knight e2. What do you make of this move? Why do you do this? Why you're playing something like that? I think, again, that's one of those reasons why sometimes very good players are playing some offbeat lines, is just to kick off the opponent of the preparation. Sometimes there are these days when you just want to play some chess. I mean, I know this. I can absolutely relate to that. For example, I come to, let's say, to play the German Bundesliga. It's a Sunday morning. It's 10 a.m. I just had a bad night. I mean, I didn't sleep well, and now I have to play this long theoretical struggle. No, come on. I'll just play something simple. Yeah, the lighting is not good for some reason. Okay, so this is the moment when very good players, they have sometimes this wish to play something funny, just to kick off the opponent of the preparation and just play chess. Just play chess. Doesn't mean he doesn't know how to play the mainstream theory. Arkady is one of the best theoreticians probably out there. And so was Sergei Movsesian, who knows theory extremely good. But sometimes there's this moment when you want to play something off beat. Right. So knight e2 was played. And g3. I imagine this is specifically against somebody who is playing Naidorf. Not going to explain too much this opening. I mean, black is doing everything fine. c3, bishop g7, and d4. So I think around here, it should be already quite apparent that black has done something wrong. Because white managed to get a great position after the opening. He has the center, he has a beautiful bishop on g2, and black should have reacted something else. What exactly? Maybe after knight e2 push d5 immediately? That's a different topic. So this was what was played in the game, and here black plays short castle. I can explain this move. Why short castle? Very often, black in such kinds of positions, he is not rushing with c takes on d4. The reason is simple. After c takes on d4, c takes, and let's say something like short castle, now white can simply play knight c3. Knight c3 and just have a good control of the center, and whatever the plan is going to ensue, I'm not so sure about that myself yet. So black played short castle with intentions to wait for white's knight d2, and now with intention to take on d4, c takes, and for example something like, I don't know, maybe queen b6. I mean, why not? Queen b6, threatening this pawn, and if white would start to play knight b3, start here. a5, a4, oh, knight g4, okay, what is this? Yeah, this is some engine move, maybe something like e5. Yeah, it doesn't look clearly, really, that white has played it out very accurately. The knight on b3 is not doing much, and most importantly, white has started to react. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to react against your opponent's play. You want to have your own play. Now, what do you think Arkady chose here? You don't like this for white? I like this for white. Actually, I look at this line, I would like to test it myself. d5. Why d5, Jinan? Why d5? Can you explain your thought process? Why exactly d5? Space. Yes, space is something that a lot of people underestimate. Space advantage is extremely important. Also, one of the favorite advantages that engines are really loving, having a lot of space advantage, is going to convince your engine that your position is so great. But having more space means you have a lot more room to operate with your pieces. So d5 is a very logical move. Of course, nobody plays d5 with intention, okay, now I'm going to capture this pawn, maybe I'm going to make some voodoo and try to divert my opponent's attention. Hey, look at this, what's happening here at the king side. Nothing is happening at the king side. So you don't play d5 with an idea to win the knight on c6, to place for some cheap tricks. It's based on strategy. About the bishop on g2, yeah, this again comes back to this discussion I was having previously about what Garry Kasparov said about the worst bishop being better than the best knight. It's a joke. Again, it's a joke. This bishop on g2, don't worry about it too much. The position is going to open, and what matters here is the space advantage. I'm going to explain you more about this bishop on g2 because it's going to be very, very tricky in a couple of moves. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Sleepy Mario. Yeah, it's good. d5 is good. Yeah, black here played knight b8. I don't know why. I think knight e5, his idea was that knight e5 jumps under some f4, knight e7, and something like c4, I imagine, c4, and knight c3. Although I'm pretty sure Naiditsch wouldn't play c4, knight c3 because he didn't play it in the game. He played something else. And here, knight b8. Knight b8, yeah, it's sort of a loss of tempo. Black just played knight c6, now he's going back knight c8, but the idea is there. Yeah, so if you play e5, the line would be terrible for black. Yeah, I agree. Gustavs, I agree. But this is a classical idea in several openings that black is wasting voluntarily two tempos just to allow white to fix the center and then base his activity probably at queenside. And now the question is, how many of you would think about the sort of automatic c4? Hey, yeah, Sleepy Mario, I like your thought process. Yeah, a4, knight a3. Nah, c4 he didn't play. The reason of c4, I know many people really like to play c4 as quickly as possible. But the problem is you are essentially removing c4 as an outpost. That's a potential outpost for your piece. And I know many people are doing like this. They're playing moves like c4 just because this is where the pawn usually stands. And this is the problem. This is the problem right there. You don't want to play c4 before because everybody typically plays a c4 in this kind of position. It really matters what happened before. Hey, Zabit, thank you. Thank you for the cheer. Appreciate that, buddy. And for example, something like c4, we can already look at this position from black's perspective. So black actually might play this position out as some sort of a Benko gambit. So for example, b5, c takes, a6, this is an entirely different game. It is possible. So maybe this also was the reason why Arkady wasn't considering this. I wouldn't play c4 myself. Another reason why c4 is maybe not so good, it opens the bishop on g7. It opens the d4 square. So we lose quite a lot just to play c4, knight c3 to strengthen the center. Is this really so important? I don't think so. So a4 is more careful move with intentions to play knight a3, knight c4, knight a6, knight a3, here. Yeah, bishop f4. So before playing knight c4, I like this next move, what Arkady played. He played bishop f4. About bishop f4, it's like a multi-purpose move. You want to see what your opponent is going to react. So if white plays bishop f4, I'll tell you honestly, I'm not sure if white was even thinking about e5, but he wants to give the impression for his opponent, I want to play e5. So e5 might be the big problem because I just play bishop f4 to push it forward, and I might just divert my opponent's attention from what I'm doing. Bishop trade, about the bishop trade I'm going to talk about, I think it's part of the provocation and also mostly making sure black is not going to play e6, e5. I think so. This is why he played bishop f4, so that there is no e6, there is no active counterplay for black. Because if I play something like normal, let's say I'm going to play, I don't know, by the way, why not knight c4, really? Knight c4 looks good. But if I play something like, whatever, rook e1, I still need to understand what's happening after e6. Okay, maybe this is just bad. Yeah, maybe this is just bad because I just play knight c4, and this pawn on d6 is just a weakness. But still, bishop f4 is a good move. Trying to provoke my opponent into doing something. Not really threatening with e5, but just developing a piece. Maybe thinking about queen d2 and bishop h6. But I'm going to get to that in a moment. Queen e8 was played. Knight c4. There you go. So the opponent was concerned about this e4, e5 threat, so he felt that he needs to play knight h5 to push the bishop away. Bishop e3. So after playing bishop f4, bishop e3, if the knight is going back, this is a little trick. White has managed to win a tempo. So that's again one of those tricks. So bishop f4, knight h5, bishop e3, knight f6. We have an extra tempo for the bishop on e3. So black played queen c8. Okay, and now comes the real fun stuff about the bishop trades. I have a couple of questions for you. First, question number 1. How will you meet bishop h3? So black wants to play bishop h3. Question number 2. Will you trade the bishops yourself? I'm slightly curious. I'm going to wait for something like a minute for people to think about that. Knight f4. Rook e1, bishop h1. Anything but take on h3, okay. Trade both. But the question is, on what? On what you are basing your decision? So maybe this is slightly more complex. Just a second. What is it with the lights here? It keeps flickering. Just a second, maybe this is going to be a little better. I have a huge lighting equipment trying to make me look good. Yeah, it keeps changing the tone all the time. I don't know why. You don't like this position? I love this position. I'm gonna explain why I love it. You wouldn't trade because the center would open. White seems to be attacking. You don't want queen h3, but queen h3 is not gonna happen in the hypnome test if you're not gonna take on h3 yourself. I mean, queen h3 is never gonna happen. So the question is, do you allow the bishop trade or not? I mean, it's so simple. Hey, Nicola, how are you? Just a second. Allow. There you go. You see, there's so many opinions. And rook e1, bishop h3, bishop h1. It's too late to prevent it. I'm going to tell you my own opinion. And then I'm going to tell you what the engine is thinking. It's completely different. Hey, Bert Smith, how are you? So, I'm going to make a completely different decision of what the engine is thinking. I mean, I would play exactly the same as Naiditsch did. Exactly the same. You need to trade the bishop on g7. Okay. Black slides where bishop is better. This is a very tricky subject. So in terms of the trade, I understand that a lot of people are very often automatically playing rook e1, bishop h3, bishop h1. Why? Because you're supposed to. Now this is quite funny. I notice a lot of people are playing like that. Oh, there's bishop h3. Oh, so I need to defend it. I need to defend against, again, the wrong question. I mean, first the question should be, is bishop h3 a threat? What is it threatening there? Checkmate? What is it? Just a trade? I mean, the bishop on g2 is not doing much, but still, I mean, a lot of people will play rook e1. And incidentally, rook e1 is the top choice of the engine. Top choice. Engine loves it. It's slightly more difficult than that. But I think essentially it's all about the space advantage. And one of the most important rules of the space advantage, just a second. One of the most important rules of the space advantage is don't trade too many pieces. So rook e1 in this regard would be completely normal. Play rook e1, bishop h3, and bishop h1. Since black is slightly cramped, he doesn't have very active pieces. The more he trades, the more comfortable he feels in a slightly cramped position. So there you go. That's already one rule. And I think it already answers. Am I going to play myself queen d2 and bishop h6? No. I'm not going to play that. I'm not going to play bishop d2, queen d2 and bishop h6 just because everybody is doing this. There needs to be a reason why I want to do this. Why I want to trade this bishop on g7. It's not doing anything there. I mean, the pawns on c3 and b2 are blocking this bishop on g7. So it's not, it's whatever. What's it doing there? So I don't want to do that. I want to play for the space advantage. I want to pressure my opponent. Now I'm talking about Arkady, like I would play here myself, but I think his thought process was exactly the same. And I want to pressure. And the bishop on g2 is not doing much. So I think I wouldn't want to trade, but most importantly, I want to continue what I'm drawing. So my plan in the beginning, if it was to fight for the space advantage, this is what I want to follow. I don't want to start to react to supposedly a threat. I mean, bishop h3, bishop h1, and then what? engine might not understand it, but I think White here could try to identify that his game is going to be at the king side. We have everything ready for the king side. And here Naiditsch played f3. That's a lovely move. This is what also I would play myself. f3 with intentions to play g4. I know you might think, oh my goodness, this is so bad. I mean, this bishop on g2 is so bad. That's the worst piece ever. Remember, the position is not fixed. The position is going to open, and the bishop on g2 might actually be, at the right time, one of the best pieces in the game. It might be difficult to believe it's not fixed. Hey Toento, appreciate that. Thank you for subbing. Hope you're gonna join. Hope you're gonna join our sub-bal against Dina Belenkaya next Friday. Again, those of you who missed, next Friday I'm going to have a sub-bal. Appreciate that. Thank you. Next Friday is 5 p.m. Central European time. Me and Dina Belenkaya, we are going to have a sub-bal. And all of the details are going to be posted either at chess.com official club for subs or the special sub lounge in the Discord channels. If you're still not there in the Discord, please consider to join it. It's just a couple of clicks. We have quite a lot of fun discussions there. Right, so f3 comes with the idea to play g4 next. So g4, knight g3, queen d2, don't worry about this bishop. So for example, black would play something like, against this terrible bishop, right? Something like, let's say knight c7. Knight c7 looks completely normal. But the knight on a6 is not doing much. I want to do something b6, a6, b5, something like that. So we are starting to execute our plan to fight for space advantage. Knight goes to g3. Let's say black is doing here, g5, here, f4. And now, do you remember this terrible bishop on h3? How terrible does it look to you right now? Not terrible at all. So the fact that it was looking temporarily a bad piece previously doesn't mean it cannot change in a couple of moves. Sure, Stevie. Yeah, absolutely, they can participate. that's one of the reasons actually, and that's why Woody was so nice to gift quite a lot of gifted subs last stream, so that a lot of people can join the sub-bal and have some fun. It should be great. So of course you can participate. Right. So instead of this, now comes the real move. So Naiditsch's idea is to fight for the space advantage, go forward the king side. I explained his thought process before, and suddenly the opponent plays f5. Suddenly opponent plays f5. Again, by the way, I think I forgot to mention is you don't want to play knight f4 prior to this, because this would trade this terrible knight on h5 and also trade a little more pieces than necessary when you're fighting for the space advantage. You don't want to do that. The bishop in Italian. Yeah, not only Italian, also the Rai Lopez as well. This is the soul of the Rai Lopez. You don't want to trade the bishop because it's almost always is becoming a much better piece later. Anyway, but here black plays f5. He realizes the problem. He understands that g4 is not really a huge problem, but he understands where this is heading. So black understands White would want to play g4, knight g3, g4, f4 with a huge attack. So he reacts. Now the question is, how do you think a Grandmaster is reacting to this problem? What do you think is White's reaction to this? Queen d2? Close it? Takes? Remember, the first example I showed you was Buhmann against McShane, and part of the strategy is provocation. Provocation is a big part of professional chess. You're provoking your opponent into doing something radical. No, don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. Hypnot test. You are trying to exploit it. So black played 5 to stop this idea of g4, but he created another problem. This problem, this weakness, is on e7, and now it's real. Your female intuition says e takes on e5. Yeah, your female intuition is correct, Sleepy Mario. Exactly, e takes on e5 it is. E takes on e5, a great move. Because you cannot take with any pieces. There's going to be g4, ouch. That's going to hurt. Takes. And now, the entire strategy changes. White has a real goal. The pawn on e7. The pawn on e7, he's going to pressure with everything. Now, look how carefully White is increasing his pressure. So he played first. Queen d2. Just a good move. Queen d2, rook e1, just something is going to happen to e file. So black played knight c7, rook e1. So this rook, it might seem, oh, that's a terrible rook. I mean, this rook on e1 is not doing much. Knight f4, you know, I'm not so sure that White is really rushing with this trade. I like this knight on h5, how exactly it's doing nothing. It's just defending against f4, incoming knight f4 threat. So if I have the opportunity, I would like to try to avoid to trade the knight. If necessary, we're going to trade it. Maybe we can try to avoid this knight's trade, because my knight on f4 essentially will be better than the knight on f6. So after rook e1, I imagine bishop g5 already is a problem. So black played knight f6. He played knight f6, he's trying to solidify the position. Knight f4 blunders d5. There's some blunder. Oh, you mean some... How does it blunder? I don't see how it's blundering really on d5. Yeah, there's always a check, queen d5. So knight f6, now knight f4, we are protecting this pawn. Bishop h6, he's trying to target it. Now knight h3, very lovely move to rearrange the pieces to protect this pawn. This weakness is not going anywhere. Bishop g7, he played back, and bishop g5. And as it happens, he has no time. He has no time to take on d5, because this weakness on e7 is going to decide the fate of the game. So for example, something like knight here, you just take on e7. That's it. Take a look at these pieces. They're completely not ready against incoming threats. This game is over. You cannot take it. And the same actually could happen after knight here. I think it's exactly the same. Knight takes on d5, bishop f6. This knight is losing support. You have to take, and again rook e7. Knight e6, queen g5, rook e1. That's a huge attack. Huge attack, and you don't want to go there if you're black. So this pawn on d5 is indirectly defended by a great move, bishop g5, and now knight f4 is going to be a move next. So black has no time to target this pawn on d5. e7 is a weakness which is requiring some attention. So knight f4 here. So we have reached a position where black is sitting and doing nothing. He has no counterplay whatsoever. King h8 is already a waiting move, and black is going to sit and wait. This is the moment when a very good grandmaster knows there is no need to rush. You can improve your threats. 91.9. Okay, that's good, I guess. Look at the following moves by Naiditsch, how he continued to improve the position. Now, first, doubling the rooks is okay. First, bishop h3. Remember this terrible bishop? Remember it? It's not so terrible anymore, is it? I mean, it's attacking the pawn on f5. So bishop h3 was played. Queen g8, knight e3, improving on more control. So this knight on c4 is not doing much. What is the knight on c4 doing? So knight is rerouted to e3 to target the pawn on f5. So that's one weakness which can be pressured. Knight e8. Now, the next move. Seemingly there are still no threats. But if we're playing from the white's perspective, we're seeing, okay, I mean, there's this king on the same line with the queen. So maybe there's going to be, at some moment, some bishop d4. Maybe there's going to be some pins or something. So we can always afford, in a dominating position, to make a quiet, prophylactic move. King h1. Maybe this also is going to mean that white can also play g3, g4 later. There's no need to rush this. Bishop e5. The bishop is under attack, so bishop h4. Bishop h4 is a good square. And taking in 4 takes, open the g file. And would this happen, I'm pretty sure that white would just focus on his game at the g file. Or maybe he still continue targeting this pawn on e7. Yeah, this patience is definitely something that is a lot of club players are missing. Queen f8. Now look at this. So knight h5. Yeah, this about knight h5. This is the moment when white is feeling the moment that sometimes you have to act immediately. So you could be carried away. And this can happen, even to the best of the players. So I am having this illusion. I have so much time. I can play rook e2, I can play rook e1, I can play b3, c4, so many moves. But still, at some moment, you are going to have to strike. So, by the way, queen h6 is a problem. Queen h6 is a problem, and this bishop on h4 might be needing some attention. So such an experienced player as Naiditsch is feeling this is the moment to strike, because I have all of the pieces ready. Bishop h3, bishop h4, knight on f4. So maybe it's time to convert this to something more real. Knight h5 comes with f4 move. How do you stop it? How do you stop f4? So queen h6, f4. This bishop trade is going to happen. Then this pawn on e7 is going to fall inevitably. So queen h5 f takes happened in the game. The pawn on e5 is a temporarily pawn loss. Doesn't matter. And let's say something like d takes, knight c4. Oh, this position is completely falling apart. So black has extremely passive pieces. Either take with the rook on e5 or take with the knight. And I imagine those bishops on h4, h3 are going to capitalize something big. So black didn't do that. And what he did, he played f4. Actually, this is a good move. Computer may not like it. But very often when you are in trouble, a lot of players try to complicate the game. They try to somehow change how this game is going. Because if I'm sitting here from black, I know what's happening here. I know I'm being completely outplayed, and I have to change it somehow. Although maybe the engine will disapprove with the move f4, you have to try. You have to try. Otherwise, you'll just be sitting there with no counterplay. Your opponent will continue to outplay you on the weak spots, collect the pawns, collect everything. You're just going to resign something like after 20 moves. So what's the point? So you have to try to complicate it. So after f4, you just take on d7. You just take the bishop on d7. That's it. It's a free piece. Takes. So black's idea was somehow try to get the knight on d6. In reality, now white is simply up a pawn. Very powerful bishops. There's another weakness on e7, and this game is over. This game is over. Yeah, rook d8 was played. Simplify. Yeah, there's no need. There is no need anymore. We could keep the bishop somehow. I don't know. I mean, bishop h3. If he takes on d5, I have bishop e6. At some moment, you are already, when you're playing this from the white's perspective, just as simple as possible. Just as simple as possible, not to miss anything. The less pieces, the better. It should be already enough to win the second pawn, and the game is going to end anyway. So that's a weakness, d6, and that's it. And the game ended in a couple of moves. So white is up 2 pawns, the d pawn is going to march toward the queens, and the game, just followed a couple of moves, and that's it. White won. So again, the question is, I'll ask the same question as the last time. The way we are following this game, can you perhaps pinpoint the critical moment where black made the mistake? You think? F5? You think that's a losing move? Yeah, the critical moment. It's difficult, right? It's very difficult. This is, like I mentioned before, this is a common thing. Just cannot pinpoint. There's no blunder. What do you do here? I mean, I think it's exactly the same as in the previous game. Allowing d5, giving space advantage, then under the pressure, when white was pressuring black with the incoming threat of having even more space advantage, black reacted with f5, which left him with a lot of weaknesses and a very easy game for white, which he simply continued to improve the position until he converted. But the biggest mistake, I didn't really explain that in detail in the previous game, is the lack of plan. Black was having no plan for the entire game. What was the plan? I mean, can you pinpoint what was black doing the entire game? He was reacting. And the same also happened in the first game of Sergei Movsesian against who was it? Erasmus Gerigk. Then it was quite difficult for Luke McShane to properly play against Sergei Movsesian, but it always, every single problem always starts with a lack of plan. You don't know what you're doing here. So if you're playing against an experienced opponent, he's just gonna slowly and gradually convert his plan. You're just sitting there, doing nothing. So that's why it's extremely important to have a plan as quickly as possible. Blunders, no, they're not a big factor, not at all. So if you see something like a high level GM level game, a big blunder, that's rare. That's quite rare. I mean, he miscalculated something or just had a hallucination. It happens rarely, especially at the highest level. It happens, but it happens so rarely. Most of the time, why some Grandmasters are losing to other Grandmasters, maybe losing something like 100%, is that it's all based on nuances. They don't have a clear plan, and they tend to underestimate certain positions. So, for example, I see this position. For example, let me go back for the opening. I see this position from afar, from black. It seems for me it's okay. I mean, I have this bishop on g7. I have good developed pieces. I think this is okay, and I go for this. White thinks I have this position. I have the space. I have the two bishop advantage. I have the not two bishop advantage. I have the center. I am better. So who is correct? After some time, the game continues by a logical pace. At some moment, black already understands. Oh. Okay, this was not a good choice. It was not a good choice after all, but it's already too late. So it's not even a miscalculation. It was not a blunder. It was just not a good choice. Just, misunderstood. Something you felt that it was good, it was not really that good, and then it's too late. All right. Not really, maybe lack of experience. I wouldn't really say that. It's yeah, maybe actually you could say the lack of experience or lack of understanding of certain positions. I've made quite a lot of mistakes like that myself, and yeah, so it can happen also to me and even to best players in the world. Happens all the time. Maybe slightly less than for others, but it happens. Right. The next game. The next game is going to be between Radoslav Wojtaszek and just a second. Michael Bezold. So this is the game. I think it was played a couple of years ago, and of course Radoslav Wojtaszek is one of the leading players in the world. He is rated over 27. He was a second of Vishwanathan Anand for some years. Maybe he still is. I mean, I don't know, but he was his biggest helper. He was the Polish number one player for many years now. This is, I believe, Jan Krzysztof Duda, and right now Radoslav and Duda, I think both of them actually are playing in the Tata Steel chess. So extremely good player. Against Radoslav, I've played myself once. I think actually I won the game, but it was a rapid game, and he was already 27. So, so I could boast about that, but it was 10 years ago, maybe something like that. So a long time ago. Michael Bezold, I don't know so well, really. So, right. So they play this game, and d4, d6, knight f3, bishop g4. This is rare. Yeah, this is rare, and I'm not really a big fan of this line. And I imagine when you play something like this from black, you just want to kick your opponent out of the preparation, which is something which I already explained a couple of times before. Yeah, me neither. I haven't seen it. I imagine the idea is to trade the bishop and play something like knight f6, e6, knight e7, g6, some behemoth, I don't know, trade this bishop here and then try to outmaneuver your opponent with the knights. A specialty by Dutch amateurs. I wouldn't know that. All right, so bishop g4 was played, and c4. Again, I mean, white is not concerned. So if you would start to asking the wrong questions, oh, bishop takes on f3 is a big threat. How do I defend against this? You'll never get the right answer. You'll never get the right answer because it's not a threat. So bishop takes on f3 is not so easy. G takes, I imagine. G takes have a very powerful pawn center. Knight c3, something like, I'm not sure about e4, maybe e3, f4. There's a number of ways how you can play it out. This, or maybe e4, bishop e3, queen d2, long castle, f4. There's a million plans. And white is going to enjoy this space advantage, which is already granted to him by a powerful pawn center and two bishops. That's a risky strategy. So black's idea is to exploit his two knights in the long term. A semi-open g-file as well is going to help. This pawn on h2 is weak, but it doesn't matter. This is not a pawn endgame. We are removing all of the pieces. Yeah, okay, I mean, white is suffering because of the pawn on h2. But it's a million miles until the pawn endgame. So he didn't play it. He didn't play that. He played knight e7, knight c3, knight f6, g3. I'm pretty sure both of them were already out of the preparation. You play something like this without having in your mind having a deep preparation. You just play sometimes, like explained before, just to have a game going. You want to take on f3, you want to play e6, c6, d5, something like that. So g3, I don't think neither of the players were in the preparation. e5. Now this move, I think it directly contradicts what
what black wants to do here. I think if you played bishop g4, it made sense to take and play something like e6, bishop g2, and something like c6 and d5. The way I understand this position, I mean, otherwise, why do you play bishop g4? It doesn't really make a lot of sense to continue with e5, bishop g2, bishop b7, castle, castle. All of this looks normal. And now comes the favorite advantage of a grandmaster. h3. White already is aiming to have a 2-bishop advantage, and black can hardly do anything. So he will have to give up the bishop, because something like, just a second, where did it go? Something like bishop h5, I imagine g4 is going to happen, and knight h4. This is a problem. So these weaknesses on the dark squares at the king side, they don't matter. Do they matter? I don't think so. I mean, knight x on g4 doesn't work because of knight g6. Always there's going to be intermezzo move. So this knight cannot escape or do some damage. So there's also a pawn under attack. And after something like c6, white can already take here and try to pressure this position for a long, long time. Yeah, something like even e3, b3, bishop b2. And it might seem that this bishop on g2 is not doing much. Now wait for it, wait for it. The position is going to open. It's going to matter a lot. Those knights, yeah, they don't matter at all. They're not doing anything. So after h3, black decided, okay. So what's done is done. I play bishop g4. I have to take on f3 immediately. Now, I guess already with a question, the way I ask, it's going to be easy for you to answer it. What do you think? What do you think white took on f3 with? Yeah, the e-pawn. I know many people automatically take with the bishop. Yeah, but why with the pawn? I mean, the way I asked this question already, I imagine it was very easy to answer it because, yeah, who is going to say take with the bishop, right? Take with the bishop. Because since there's such a question, obviously there's something different. Still bishop f3, okay. So e takes on f3 is extremely interesting. And so the idea, it's a known thing, yeah. Depends for who. Depends for who it is a known thing. Take with the rook. Yeah, you wish, you wish. So, no, I mean, the pawn on h3 doesn't really matter. Nobody is attacking the pawn on h3. It's all about opening the position. You have two bishops. If you're playing from the white's perspective, you want to open the position. If you're playing bishop takes on f3, the position is still sort of closed. You'll be looking for ways to open. So that's why e takes on f3 with an idea to play f4 is to force more trades. You might think there is also e takes on d4. How are you going to force the trade? But after queen takes on d4, c6, f4. Now the question is, what black is going to do, yeah, this is very scary, against the typical plan of g4, g5. Maybe not immediately, because we need to prepare this stuff. But the idea is there, g4, g5, removing a lot of square for those knights, and they're doing nothing. Knight on c5, the other knight is going to d7, then on b6, and they're just pinned. And imagine from the black's perspective, again, this is going to be a topic about the space advantage. Black wants to trade one knight badly. He just wants to trade it because I have this cramped position. They're not doing much. So can you please, sir, trade this knight on e4, please? Of course, white is not going to do it because that's part of against the rule. When you're playing for a space advantage, you don't want to trade the pieces because your opponent is suffering. Bishop Hypnobe test, just a second. I see your question. Pawn takes bishop. Oh! Oh, thank you. Road to GM300. Thank you. How are you? How was your stream? Appreciate that. Of a huge rate of 327 viewers. Appreciate that. Actually, I saw your stream a little before I started my stream. I'm very happy that you have such a big progress. Yeah, what is it? Almost 15,000 followers, right? Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, I'm still not there. I mean, I would love to, of course. And I see you streaming every day, and I hope you had a good one. So what we're doing here is I'm running my 25th bootcamp already. What, 25th? That's quite amazing. I mean, time flies when having fun. And once a week, I'm doing some educational stuff. I'm a chess grandmaster myself. And I'm just looking some interesting topics. Yeah. And so today we have chosen the thinking process for grandmasters. So it's not only about me. I'm explaining the games of other grandmasters who have played the games, but with my thoughts. So prior the games we were following of Sergei Movsesian against Luke McShane. Then it was, Rainer Buhmann against Luke McShane. Then it was Sergei Movsesian against Gerigk Erasmus. Then it was Arkady Naiditsch against Alexander Belezky, and now it's Radoslav Wojtaszek against Alexander Bezold. Why not followers only? I think followers only is okay. Do you want subscribers only? I'm pretty sure it's followers only is okay for the pace this chat is chatting. Right. So yeah, just hope you're gonna enjoy it. Enjoy the stream. We are still quite a lot of time. Yeah, I think it's okay. And yeah, by the way, while you're here, I'll use this opportunity again to remind that next Friday I'll have a very special event, which is going to be sub battles against Adina Belenkaya and her dinosaurs. That's going to be fun. And we already talked about this slightly before, and I'm gonna open after the stream a registration link at the Discord channel, or either the official subscriber club at chess.com, so that everyone can register for that. So I totally look forward for that. So again, thank you guys for coming here, and hope you're going to enjoy the remaining of the stream. Right, so this idea for black is looking extremely dangerous because that bishop on g2 is very, very powerful. Yeah, that's Riga. That's Riga in the background. Do you know it? Just a second, I can remove the board so that you can appreciate that. There you go. That's Riga. I'm from Riga myself. I'm living in Riga. Hello, Lucas. Good. How are you? Yeah, that's Riga because I decided to be more patriotic. All of my streams, they are having a new layout, new wallpapers, and all of them feature Riga. All of them. Oh, you're also from Latvia. Oh, good boy. Okay, see that? Thank you for following. And right, marvelous Riga. Yes, it's beautiful, always beautiful. So this is why the opponent didn't take on f3. I mean, he take on f3, but he didn't take on d4. Yeah, he didn't take on d4. Yeah, don't worry about that. And rook e8. Rook e8 was played. And now this is going to be quite tricky. Oh, you're from Finland. I love Finland. I love Helsinki. Yeah, I've been so many times in Finland. I've been playing in the Finnish league for something like 10 years. Yeah, for the team of Vammala. Vammala, which is now titled as Sastamala, I think. Love it. Totally love it. I mean, I could talk about my league experiences for hours, but okay, let's not divert the topic too much. So here Black played rook e8. And now again, let's remember the rule. We have two bishops. I mean, we white, right? We are playing from the white's perspective. All of the biggest respect for the black, of course, who is still extremely solid. But I think I already prefer white. And guys, please keep English. Keep English. So that everybody understands what you're talking about. And now, how do we open the position? Yeah, thank you again. Thank you for the stream. See you later. For the raid, I apologize. Thank you for the raid, and see you later. So how do we open the position? And if black played rook e8, so the question is, maybe we should try to open the position. So who is for double taking on e5? Now this is a tricky moment. Are we going to take on e5 or not? Rook e1? Rook e1, okay. But let's say rook e1, bishop f8. What changes? Are you going to take on e5 or not? Now, this is tricky. Think about this. Hey, TT, thank you. Appreciate that for the cheer of 100. F takes on e5? Maybe. b3 first. Okay. b3, bishop f8. What next? I think you're going to have to take at some moment. Rook e1 and then taking on e5. Rook e1. I'll tell you that nobody has yet guessed Wojtaszek's next move. It's paradoxical. It's all about the two bishop advantage and the space advantage. Yeah, d5. d5. Very good move. But it's difficult to understand why. I mean, I have these bishops on g2 and c1. I want to bring them into the game. So, of course, the first question is, why don't I take on e5? Yeah, so takes, and takes. Actually, this is a seemingly normal position, but black is still extremely solid. And the biggest problem for white is that this bishop on g2 is staring at the pawn on c6. Now queen d8. I don't know. This pawn on c4 is under attack, by the way. Queen d8, rook d8. Yeah, we lost the space advantage, guys. We lost the space advantage. So that's also so important to take into account, this space advantage. And that's why Wojtaszek, he played d5. A brilliant move. So the idea is still fight for the space advantage. Still go for opening the position, but not open the bishop on e7. I think it's going to be quite difficult to explain this idea. So white still is aiming to open the position, but he is also going for a space advantage. So for example, something like c5. After c takes, you take with a piece. What do you mean? Yeah, you take with... Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. After c... Of course, you take with a piece on d5, not with a pawn, because why would you take with a pawn? I mean, it closes this bishop. It closes this bishop on g2, right? It removes you the d5 outpost for your pieces. Of course, you take with a knight. And after knight takes on d5, either with the bishop or with the queen, then something like b3, bishop d2, rook d1. This is a weakness, this is a weakness. That's an easy game. I think so, at least. So if black would play here c5, and that's a very logical way to follow here, you just would prepare something like f takes on e5 at the right time. Maybe something like g4. Fight for the space advantage. Let's say takes, or maybe, by the way, I think g5 drops something immediately. Yeah, g5 drops a piece, so we cannot do that. So g4, let's say something ugly, h6. Let's say queen c2 takes. This would be an entirely different topic. This is now essentially a fight for the space advantage, and black is so badly cramped. And again, he is looking for ways to trade pieces. Black is begging white, please trade the dark square bishops. Please trade a couple of knights so that I have a breather, so that I have some space here. And of course, white is never going to let that happen. So that's why black didn't go for this. He recognized this problem. Do you think it was random he didn't play c5? He understood the problem of this move, of this strategy. If advancing the pawns is so important... Tara Satva, I see your question. It's slightly more complex than that, because every single opening has a purpose. I could actually talk about that, why people are playing certain openings, why they're playing e4, e5, which is challenging the center, why they're playing the Naiditsch, e4, c5, which is fighting for very aggressive and dynamic play. e4, c6 is just avoid drawish symmetrical lines. You wouldn't believe that many aggressive players with black are playing Karakan, e4, c6, just because the opponents cannot force a draw. I know this. I've talked with them. I know this, why they're playing the Karakan. It's not random. And the French is just a difficult strategical struggle. I mean, okay. So here, after d5, black played queen c7. Black realized the problem that's gonna happen after. If he would play c5, the space advantage. And now do you think what happened here? Again, the pace of the game changes. Now, white was thinking about going for the space advantage, but now c takes on d5 might be a problem actually. So c takes on d5, we don't want to take with a pawn. You want to take with a piece, but there's a pawn on c4 under attack. b3, that's good. That's good. b3 could be a potential move. But here, Wojtaszek again changed the plan. He went instead of the space advantage for the two bishop advantage. So he has a weakness. That's a weakness. D takes, B takes. So that's going to be very good bishop here on g2. And bishop e3. There's no need to rush taking on e5. So white has very beautiful bishops on g2 and e3, which are controlling these lovely long diagonals. And this pressure against the pawn on c6 can become already unbearable at some moment. So black played a5. Yeah, I imagine you want to push the a5 anyway at some moment. b3, a slow preparation move, takes, and knight c5. So here we already can make some first evaluation of the position. Black is considerably worse because of the weaknesses on c6 and d6, and white has two bishops and better pawn structure. Hey Christopher, how are you? How does it lose the strong diagonal? Jay Saddam, hello there, how are you? Black has a4. Yeah, about the a4, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure he has the a4. Yeah, I'm great. Everything is great. Enjoying the Sunday with a quality stream and talk with you guys. Yeah, about the a4, actually, a4 might be a problem. Ah, you get gifted. that was I think Woody who gifted you a sub. One day he decided to give something like 50 subs. Yeah, he is a wonderful guy, and I guess you weren't there when it happened 2 days ago. Yeah, he gifted quite a lot of subs, and I guess, Christopher, you were one of the lucky ones, so now you are entitled to participate in the sub battle. Of course, I'm gonna post all of the details in the Discord. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna post all of the details in the Discord, but I just want to remind you that use the opportunity to join the Discord channel. This is where we are gonna organize stuff. We have a special launch for the subs, and there we can discuss this. Queen of 3 is okay. Queen of 3 is okay. So for example, Queen of 3 is something like Rook c8. How do you continue? I think here, yeah, Bishop e3, I like this move. Because Bishop e3, this is also what Wojtaszek played. It defends against a4. Because Bishop takes on c5 is going to be intermezzo move, and thank you for the pawn. And it also stops against knight e6. But about Bishop e3, this is a difficult move to make because it may seem that it's attacking the pawn on d6. But you can always return to f4 later. You're the astrophysicist. Okay. Yeah, so no, bishop e3 was played already. Knight after d7, still threatening with some a4. And again, at this moment, it's important to remember. You always are asking this question from the white's perspective. Is a4 a threat? I already explained this idea in the previous examples. Is a4 a threat? I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think so that a4 is such a big threat, because I can just play b4. It might be a threat at some moment. Yeah, playing yourself a4 is not going to be good. Yeah, a4, b4. But immediately playing yourself a4 is just going to weaken the square on b4 and the pawn on b3. Yeah, so still queen f3. You want to play queen f3. Yeah, but queen f3 is easily defended. After queen f3, I just play rook a to c8. What is the queen doing on f3? Again, it's it's quite important that you are following a bigger strategy. Don't base your plans on cheapos. It's never working. So something like, I mean, yeah, okay, maybe queen f3 is good, but queen f3, rook c8, and then what? What is the queen doing there on f3? So what you want to do is you want to play good, developing moves, slowly and gradually increasing the pressure, and maybe something is going to fall in the process. You're pressuring the weaknesses. Queen g4? With what idea? I mean, queen g4, mate on g7. I still think we can pressure that pawn on d6. Knight e4. No, I think it's simply queen d2. I mean, knight e4, I'm not so sure I really want to trade these knights. Queen on g4. Again, black can play something like bishop f6. There's no bishop h6 threat. So the queen is just jumping under some knight e5 threats. So for the time being, we can just continue the development and pressure this pawn. a4. Yeah, after b4, after a4, we can play b4, definitely. So again, like I already explained before, is if you're gonna start to react against potential threats, like what I'm going to defend against a4, it's going to be increasingly difficult, if not impossible, to find the correct answer. So if you're thinking, how am I supposed to defend against a4, maybe there's no right answer, because a4 is not even a threat. So the right answer is a4 a threat? That is the right, the right question. I think it's not. So queen d2 was played here. Now rook d1. But which one? Which one? Rook a to d1 or rook f to d1? A rook, f rook. Rook a to d1. That's completely normal, because I imagine you're thinking about to play rook f to e1 later. But again, think about the picture which you're drawing. So for example, you're playing rook a to d1. It's very paramount that you have a good understanding of the next 5 moves, approximately. What you're going to do there. So rook a to d1. Then what? I mean, rook f to e1, and what? Bishop f4, trade couple of rooks, and what? I mean, it's very, very important that you ask yourself these questions, where this game is heading. I think the e-file. E-file is not important. B takes on c5 after rook d1. I don't see any b takes on c5. I think it's very important here. Bishop takes on c. Bishop. Okay. Yeah, bishop takes on c5. Maybe if black allows to double those pawns. By the way, if black would play something like knight f6, I'm not so sure if I really want to take on c5. It's just a double pawn. That's it. I like my bishop on e3. I like it. But there's actually, I just remembered, there's one more additional idea which I didn't explain. Why queen d2 was so important move. Let's go back one little move. Black might be threatening with a positional sacrifice on e3 with a queen on d1. For example, if I would not recognize this problem, I would be so thinking about my own ideas. I have these great ideas, I have these wonderful ideas. So for example, now I'm going to decide I want to play rook b1, a3, b4, b5 to create an outpost on b5 and d5, open the bishop. So for example, rook b1, bishop f8 and a3. Whoops, this position, I'm already not so sure. Okay, maybe not exactly g6, but something like bishop h6, something like queen e7, queen e5, those dark square weaknesses, I don't like it. I think it's very important also when you are in such a good control of the game is don't miss your opponent's ideas. And this is what Grandmaster is always taking into account, that even if he has this wonderful idea to target those weaknesses on c6 and d6, still don't miss. Queen f3 is knight e5, but there's specifically b4, b5. Yeah, maybe this g6 wasn't really that good move. I just wanted to show you this idea. But anyway, I mean, queen d2 is a multi-purpose move, defending against some funny idea of exchange sacrifice on e3. So bishop f8, so black wants to do something here, I don't know exactly how. And rook d1, f to d1. Because the other rook, our picture is going to be rook b1, a3, b4, b5. Create a passed pawn, open the bishop on g2, and gain an outpost on d5. Somebody might say, it's not enough. Okay, I mean, it's one person's opinion. Yeah, the e-file is absolutely not important, Christopher. It's not. So what is the alternative? We could pressure those pawns on d6 and c6. Yeah, but how? How to pressure them? Because instead of this, I could play something like knight e2, knight e4, but it's easily protected with something like even knight b8. Bishop f4, I just play knight e5. So it's not easy. Of course, I understand that you want to attack those weaknesses, but a3, b4, b5 is just creating a passed pawn with protected by two bishops. An outpost on d5 is just an easier game. Yeah, the e-file is, I mean, he's controlling the e-file, but nobody cares about it. Unless, of course, you're missing this exchange sacrifice on e3 at the wrong moment. So after rook f to d1, rook b8, rook b1, this is exactly what Wojtaszek played. He is planning to play a3, b4. He's just going to need to prepare this, but he is going to play this. So you might think he played rook b1 to defend against a4. He did, by the way. After rook b8, black is thinking about a4 himself, so that there's no b4. But Wojtaszek is not reacting. He is following his own plan of playing rook b1, a3, b4, and at the same time, with one hand, kicking away his opponent's intentions. That's the best strategy always there is. Rook a to e1? You mean want to double the rooks? Keep the rook on f1? I mean, maybe there's something else as well. Yeah, who said that you cannot start an improvised attack at the king side, for example? I mean, you can. So in the game, happen this. Knight e4 not to be missed. This pawn needs to be protected. So queen c2 is an easy move. Easy move. a3, b4 is incoming. g6. First. Actually here, queen c2. I'm not sure. This might have been the inaccuracy, the only inaccuracy in Wojtaszek's game so far. I'm slightly surprised. Yep. I'm slightly surprised he allowed to do this. I'm absolutely surprised Black didn't went for this. Yep, I think so. The engine is not gonna like it though. It's very human. Rook takes on e3, f takes on e3, and something like g6. The major difference here is that for Black it's becoming very easy to play. Bishop h6, put the knight on e5, for example, something like here. Maybe this knight could go here, this knight could go here, rook could go here. It's very easy to lose the track of the game. But maybe still, White is continuing with a3, b4, b5 to create this passed pawn. The sacrifice is an idea to get a very active piece coordination. It's just a pawn and a half, 1.5 pawns. I think it's an excellent idea. It's a very common idea. Those dark squares are extremely weak. With the pawn on h2, I wouldn't recommend this. Yeah, because the pawn on g3 is easily protected. But the pawn on h3, now these are very big weaknesses. Maybe actually put the bishop on e5 even. Protects the pawn on d6. Maybe knight h5, bishop g7, bishop e5, queen e7, queen g5. I don't like this. I don't know why Radoslav went for this, but I imagine he was fully aware of this, being such a high-level player. He just evaluated it's nothing, or maybe he was confident that he is still having an advantage, and he is having an advantage. But I think it was more careful to do exactly what he was doing, but starting with bishop d4. Not to allow this idea, but from the personal experience I can tell you that a lot of players, not saying that Wojtaszek missed that, but a lot of players are missing the positional sacrifices. A good player sees what he can sacrifice. Even better player sees what his opponent might sacrifice to start an attack. A very good player sees a potential positional sacrifice, and positional sacrifice is something you almost never take into account. Almost never. Because why would you want to give up the material, right? Why? And then after a couple of moves, that's why. Yeah. I think bishop d4 was more careful. So this might have been the only inaccuracy from Wojtaszek. Queen c2 play, g6. I think now his idea was to take with all of the comfort. Rook takes on e3 and bishop h6. But now Wojtaszek is not going to give a second chance, and bishop d4. So that was one tiny moment, and it's gone. No more chances again. Bishop g7. Actually, I think a3, b4, b5 looks very logical, but Wojtaszek decided first to increase the pressure against the pawn on c6 to prepare a3, b4. Knight e6. Remember, we don't want to trade bishops easily. I care about my bishops. The bishops on d4 and bishops on g2 are one of the easily best pieces here on the board, so not allowing to trade on d4 absolutely out of the question. Bishop e3 or bishop a1. I like bishop e3. Why? Because it's going to allow the pawn to advance. Sorry, wrong lines. Yeah, I think something like 4 points, at least 3.5. It's better than the knight, definitely. You compare those bishops on e3 and g2 with the knight on e6 and f6. They're doing nothing. Just very static. I think black had to try, again, go back knight c5. Still play and toy with this idea to sacrifice the exchange, but okay, he did not. He played bishop f8, and now Wojtaszek is going for this plan of b4, b5. So here, his opponent played c5. Knights are underrated? That's a lovely topic. I think I had a boot camp about that. About the knights. Knights versus bishops. Not sure. This is a very nice, interesting topic. Even for professionals, I know some players really prefer knights. Most of the players prefer bishops. But it depends. It really depends. Yeah, it absolutely depends. So here c5 is, yeah, he is losing the patience. But I mean, you cannot blame him. Can you blame black for losing the patience here? Because b4 takes. Now b5 is going to be a problem at some point later. And no, tell him during the game, just be patient. Just be patient while your opponent is slowly outplaying you and just marching this b pawn towards the queen. You want to act. You want to do something. And c5 is sort of a logical move because you're stopping b4 from happening, you're fixing the d4 square, you're not allowing the knight to jump to d4, and you're fixing the problem of the weakness on c6. I mean, if you look from this perspective, that makes sense, right? c5 makes sense. However, every single move comes with a drawback. d6 is weak, also the d5 square is very weak. It wasn't before. So what Wojtaszek does? He changes the strategy. Again, he was provoking this idea with b4, b5. Yeah, I think he played queen d2. Yeah, queen d2 was played. And now he changes the strategy. He's going for this weakness. There's also another weakness on b5, by the way. Knight c3. Oops. Oopsie daisy. The knight is coming to d5 for b5 with disastrous effects. So after knight e5, knight c3, queen d8, knight b5, queen b6. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much about this one, but here, I really love this moment. It shows, again, such a great understanding of how the game should be played by Wojtaszek. He's such a super great player. And for another time, Wojtaszek changes the strategy. So very good players, Grandmasters, they're very much adaptive. They changed the strategy. For example, he started to play this game with a 2-bishop advantage. He started to open the position. It's not like he was blindly running into every single trade just to open the bishops. Remember this move d4, d5, right? Then he was willing to play for the space advantage if his opponent had complied. He did not. He changed the strategy back to go for the 2-bishop advantage and fight for the weaknesses. He was pressing, he was threatening with a3 and b4, and he sort of forced or provoked his opponent to play c5. And now he started again to pressure those weaknesses. He could jump to d5 right away. Nobody stopped him, Kim. Knight e5, easiest move ever. Easiest move ever. I like your thought process, Gerigk. He suddenly thought there's a moment the black king is left alone. I mean, he was, of course, going for this weaknesses on d6, but suddenly the king is alone and not really so well protected. And the queen is on a6, so far away. So that's already giving him some thoughts. So maybe there's something here. Maybe I can start a quick attack against the king. So he played knight e4. Again, knight e4 doesn't come with the cheapo. His intention is not to win the exchange on f6. I mean, knight f6, knight e8. If opponent is going to blunder this, okay, fine, I'll take it. But you cannot really base your strategy just to play knight e4 so that I can win this exchange on f6, and please blunder this. It doesn't work like that. No, not bishop h6. Not bishop h6 because I don't think it comes with any threat. Not at least right now. So rook d8, protecting both threats. And now comes the big move, f4 and g4. A complete change in strategy. So white is playing f5, bishop g5, knight f6, bishop d5. And all of the black's pieces suddenly seem extremely disconnected. And what was important before, those positional nuances, those b4 plans, all of that is history. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it is lost. This is completely lost. White's plan is checkmate black. f5, bishop g5. Checkmate. It looks extremely dangerous because look at these pieces. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially rook here, f5. What does black have? Couple of pieces? Queen is completely off the game. How do you stop this? There's also maybe at the right time still this knight d6. So that's like a bonus which might happen. So black collapsed very quickly. So he played knight d4. Very nice outpost. Congratulations. The pawn on b3 doesn't matter at all. All that matters is the attack. The commentary in the tournament games? No, I don't think so. I would love to. Of course. Didn't they start already? I think they started already, no? I mean, it's interesting. I think it would be interesting to do some recaps maybe. At some... it's a 17. It's a 17 today. No? I think they started, no? But they're still playing the opening phase. I'm not sure if it's so much fun to follow. So here, f5, bishop g5, knight f6, open. There's a very big attack. This pawn on b3. I don't think even Wojtaszek was looking at the pawn on b3. I mean, it doesn't matter. Who cares about the pawn on b3? Yeah, g takes. I think there's many moves. Knight f6, maybe check. King h8. Maybe queen f2, queen h4. These pawns don't matter. When somebody is going to get mated, those extra pawns, they don't matter. So the black king is completely exposed. And what he did, he played knight b3. So the queen is rerouted. Million threats appear. Now opening the position. Going for the kill. So bishop is already going to join the attack here. Rook f1. I'll tell you honestly, a grandmaster who is playing here with white, for example Wojtaszek, I'm not so sure he was even calculating too much. Because the logic is simple. White has so many pieces here for the attack at the king side. He has the knight on f6, bishop on e3, bishop on g2, double the rooks, queen h4 is the threat. There's a million threats. So these pawns at the queen side, who cares? So if you think he was really calculating here for a very forced long win, you're mistaken. I don't think so. I wouldn't do this myself. I just try to make normal looking attacking moves, not to go for the cheapo. Don't bother about some exchange sacrifices. I mean winning exchanges. I just go for the mate. Because the king side is completely exposed. Yeah, and after rook f8, yeah, there's this lovely bishop h6. Yeah, bishop h6 is killing the game. King h6, queen h4 is just a massacre. And instead he played knight e5, queen h4, and I think it was a resignation already. Yeah, that's it. That's a mate on the board. So black is up a pawn. He's resigning here. So what was better here? So there is a million threats. This is a threat. This is a threat. This is a threat. This is a threat. There's many threats. All of the black's pieces are completely disconnected somewhere. The knight on b3 is not doing much. If you think knight takes on b3 was a mistake, yeah, what else? What else? So maybe it was slightly more stubborn to play something like bishop g7, but this also looks like a mate. Here, and now bishop h6 with a threat to take and play queen h6. How to defend this? Yeah, queen f2 is a cool move, but again, a grandmaster here, he wouldn't really definitely pay attention to the pawn on b3 and just prepare stuff. And this also is what makes a difference. with a less experienced player is that a less experienced player, they're starting looking for a forced win. So here, if you're playing for white, you're looking for the forced win on the spot. I mean, you don't have to do that. Just make logical attacking moves. And when the king is completely exposed, yeah, then you can look for those forcing moves. Maybe he shouldn't have played bishop f8 and g6. I don't know, how far away should we go? He played bishop f8 a long time ago and g6 even before. Maybe he shouldn't have played bishop g4 in the opening. I mean, to be honest, yeah, so the game ended. So the game ended here, and after queen h4, he h9 with impossible to pair threats. But again, this was one of those examples where was no one clear mistake. It all started with misplayed opening, so this d6, bishop g4, knight d7, then giving away a bishop just like that. Yeah, but bishop h5 also wasn't better. I think the entire approach was just bad. So, but this can happen when, imagine yourself, you're playing with black against a very good player, one of the best, and he's so good in theory, you know he's a theoretician. So isn't it natural that you want to avoid the theoretical struggle and you play something offbeat where he has to think himself over the board? Yeah, but I think it's a better idea to play with white. With black, this is extremely difficult stuff because those Grandmasters are also extremely good players themselves. They don't really know only the opening. They're extremely good at everything. So that's maybe that's not exactly the best idea. Right. So wonderful game by Wojtaszek, and as you saw, he was changing this approach every single time. He started to play for two bishops, then he was playing for space advantage, then he switched to two bishops, then he was attacking those weaknesses, and then suddenly, boom, he switched to swift attack, and black was just completely startled. Yeah, he didn't understand what's even happening here. Very swift attack, couple of moves, knight e4, f4, g4, f5, that's it. That's already decisive attack. Yeah, the opening trouble doesn't matter too much. And yeah, the famous Tal quote. I like that. Yeah, that's what he said some time ago. Right, what else? Maybe I can show you this as a final example. It's still quite lovely. I have many games like that. Yeah. So this is going to be a game between Kamsky. Just a second, I should have changed the... What? So this is the game between Kamsky against Aryan Tari. And Aryan, he is right now playing in Tata Steel Chess. I think so, at least. He's a very nice guy. One of the brightest Norwegian talents. And Kamsky is a famous legend. So he's also a big streamer here on Twitch. And of course a big talent. And he used to be one of the best players in the world. Yeah, a big player, of course, in the world chess. So he was the leading United States player for many years. Now I believe he left it back for Russia. Not so sure really which federation he is representing right now. I think he's back living in Russia. Yeah, he was. Still, I mean, very good player, extremely talented. And this game is going to show it, how very swiftly you can change the plans. Yeah, I think he's living in Russia right now. So he played this game against Aryan Tari in 2017 and played something like 5 times? Okay, 5 times. I mean, I know that he left it some time ago. I read an interview somewhere. I think it was on the Russian news site Why he left it? Not gonna talk about that here, but he left it. So he played g3. So this is one of those rare occasions, again, when a player wants just to play some chess. Avoid theoretical discussions, just want to see what you're capable of, what you're made of. You had to read the interview, it was in Russian. So d5, bishop g2. I'm not really sure why Aryan didn't play e5. E5, I think, is Benko? This is not Benko. Why do you think this is Benko, Paul? This is not Benko. This is... let me check what this is. King's Fianchetto opening. I don't know if it has a title. It's not even a reti because the knight is not on f3. I don't know what it is. Some g3, bishop g2 stuff. If you really want to talk about nuances, g3 is a very good move. If after g3, d5, I once tricked my opponent and switched to reti, and he doesn't play d5, and then I switched to the Catalan later, my opponent was completely off guard, so that was a nice way to trick it. Delayed bone cloud, yeah, got it. And the point after e5, you can still play c4. So that's c4, e5, g3, which is quite popular. English opening, but we could talk about... Actually, we could talk about, make a new bootcamp maybe next time about how you can try to trick your opponents with ordered moves. Yeah, this is actually an interesting topic. I could talk about this for hours, definitely. Yeah, so something like g3, e5, c4, or g3, d5, knight f3, how to avoid certain positions, where's the difference, and why Grandmasters are doing this all the time. They're doing this all the time. I mean, they're constantly trying to trick their opponents into something they're not playing. So anyway, this didn't happen. After g3, bishop g2, yeah, Aryan played g6. I think his idea... I'm not so sure if he plays a Grunfeld. His idea was to meet knight f3 with bishop g7, which is one annoying way to meet the reti. And one of the biggest reasons why I stopped to play this with white, I was playing myself this line. So for example, knight f3, d5, g3. I was having really good success. And then came this annoying g6. And everybody started to play this. I mean, literally everyone. So the idea is to meet bishop g2 with bishop g7 and threaten to play e5, and d4 is just a symmetrical Grunfeld. I don't like it. I mean, okay, you can play this, but not like every single time. So that was one of the reasons why I felt I need to change something. And Kamsky started with, g3, bishop g2, and suddenly he went for the Dutch Leningrad with colors reversed and extra tempo. So that was quite interesting. So he played a 4. I like this because I'm a Dutch defense player myself, from Black's perspective. Knight f3, knight f6, castle, castle, d3, c5. All of this is normal, completely normal. So there's nothing to discuss. I'm playing this setup from Black's perspective. I'm a big Dutch defense player myself, so I can relate to that. So white is not worse, definitely. I mean, white is not worse. I mean, this can hardly be a worse position. It's very dynamic, very unorthodox, and I imagine this was why Kamsky went for it. Yeah, it is boring, just that. It is boring. I know that. And so c3, knight c6, knight a3 was played. So here, I think Tari lost a little patience here. So he went for the most obvious approach, which players who are playing the Dutch defense... I think Gata was himself quite a good Dutch defense player of Leningrad system. I think so, at least. Now I start to think about this. I think so, yeah. He was playing Dutch defense himself as well. So he is pretty much familiar with the setups. And extra tempo is going to help him. So the best approach, I think, for Black here is play extremely solid, maybe something like rook b8, b5, b4. That looks very logical. Knight a3 is a classical idea. White wants to play queen e1 and e4. And after this is going to be played, the knight on a3 is fighting a good square on c4. And should black play the classical idea of d4 and knight d5, this is how typically black plays, or white plays against Dutch defense, then the knight on a3 is already standing where it should be, because there's no better square. If you play something like knight d2, this weakens this square. Oh, that's a problem. And knight b3, no, this is looking ugly already. The knight on b3 has nothing to do. Right. So after knight a3, queen c7, queen c2, white is threatening to play e4. I think actually the entire queen c7 was not a good approach, and something like rook b8, b5, b4 felt a little more logical to me. So he played queen c7, queen c2, and e5. About this e5, I know that this is one of the ideas in the Dutch defense that white is typically trying to employ, but it's not really that dangerous for black, because black gets extremely active. And I imagine here using the same idea, but with an extra tempo for white, that should be even better. So that's my thought process right there. Yeah, e5. So the idea is to do something similar what Arkady Naiditsch did against Alexander Bezold. You remember the game, right? So he opened the e file. He was trying to get to this weakness on e7. So black's idea is exactly the same. So he wants to open the e file, trade couple of pieces, and then pressure the pawn on e2. Very logical. Yeah, very logical. But what he missed was a couple of moves. First, very, very nice move by Kamsky. Knight e5. I like this move. Now, intermezzo move, knight b5. So after knight b5, for example, the logical move, queen b6, take, and if queen b5, now this is a problem, a big problem, because white kept his pawn, and the other one is under attack on d5. So maybe after something like f takes and knight g4, yeah, but then you can just go back knight a3, and this pawn is still under attack, while the pawn on e5 might be somehow protected. Actually, I think this is what happened in the game. Yeah, I think so. This is what happened in the game. So the engine says the best move after knight b5 is some queen d7. I'm not so sure about that. Zwischenzug, yeah, Marco Buhmann. I just like intermezzo a little more, the term. I know chess.com uses Zwischenzug, or the so-called include the move, which is translated from the German language. I speak a little German language myself, so I know it. Intermezzo, I like the Italian terms a little better. Intermezzo, fianchetto, those words I like a little more, but I guess it doesn't really matter. So queen d7 is supposedly better. Aryan played queen b6, takes. Yeah, intermediate. Yeah, intermediate. Okay. Yeah, intermediate, that maybe is even better. Knight g4. Now this knight is under attack. Knight a3. Bishop e6. And I imagine when Aryan was looking at this position from afar, Germans in military boots? If you say so. Yeah, so when Aryan saw this position from afar, I imagine his thought process was like that he's going to recapture the pawn on e5 no matter what. So for example, white would play something like bishop f4. Whatever, I mean knight takes on e5. But here comes the next move, after which is not so easy for black to continue, which is queen b3. The pawn on d5 is under attack. Queen c6 is going to be d4. How do you play here? I think it was important to take immediately something like bishop e5. And if I take here... Oh, what is that? There's some engine idea. Wow, look at this. This is... Wow. Knight takes on h2. What is this? Oh, come on. It just doesn't jump in your attention. Something like that. I can tell you honestly, I mean, what is this? I wouldn't even see that. This is the engines line. It looks fantastic. Fantastic idea. But you have to understand this during the calculation, because human brain is thinking like that. So after bishop takes on e5, bishop takes on d5, I don't recapture the pawn. And you would have to see already that there's knight takes on h2, queen d8, and queen h4. I think at one moment you just draw a line. There's nothing. This is extremely dangerous. I'm losing a pawn. There's no compensation for me, so I cannot go for this. Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely idea. I think so. That was his thought process, why he didn't play bishop takes on e5. And I don't think he was really concerned about queen b6. Queen b6 is nothing. Queen b6 takes, and I mean, probably this is what Gata would have continued. h3, I don't know, knight f6, and something like bishop f4 maybe. But the position is equal. To be honest, I don't think there's anything for white. Maybe some knight b5 improvised idea. But anyway, I mean, Aryan took on b3. Now, taking on b3, that's a slight mistake. Now you are going to see how Kamsky is going to develop his initiative just based on this one little inaccuracy. Queen takes on b3, takes bishop, knight e5. Yeah. Now, knight b5 comes with a big threat here, here. And this pawn, by the way, is under attack. The pawn on a7 is under attack. Knight c6. Still, black looks extremely solid, especially when you're looking from afar. Yeah, the a-file is open. That's a problem for black. Still, I mean, black has no weaknesses. It seems so. But the next move is the one which is causing him real headaches. Bishop f4. And such moves are incredibly difficult to counter because they come with many threats. So the obvious threat is bishop d6. The second threat is at some moment knight c7 still, and this knight on c7 is protected. And it's just a good developing move. And there's no bishop e5, by the way. Takes, takes, and the pawn on a7 is lost. Yeah. So how do you defend here? So Aryan had to make this move a6. I don't think he was happy with the move. Yeah, but how do you keep the light square bishop? I understand this knight c7, knight e6 is something ugly. But how do you keep it? Maybe really the best move was to give up this pawn on a7. But to be honest, it's so difficult to do this. To voluntarily play bishop e5, take on e5, give away the pawn on a7 just because everything else is not looking good. And from the personal experience, I can tell you is all of the players, especially Grandmasters, are so big experts when it comes down to choosing the best continuation. But vice versa, when there's one bad continuation, another bad continuation, this is worse, this is ugly, this is insane. And you have to choose. You have to choose between these five. Give up a pawn, suffer, bad endgame, exposed king. How do you remain that objective here? It really takes quite a lot of experience. Yep, the knight will be traded for the light square bishop. Almost automatic. And Aryan had to force it. Otherwise, this knight on b5 is a big problem. So knight c7 here. And here yet another annoying intermediate move, if you like it better. Bishop e3. And just because the pawn is standing on a6, how do you protect the pawn on c5? Bishop g4? I think black already is missing some material because of bishop takes on c5 threat. Zwischenzug. Also like it. I also like Zwischenzug a little more. So the pawn on c5 is very weak. b6 drops the pawn on a6. How do you defend it? So the only move, seemingly, is d4. Now knight e6. Yep. F takes and bishop d2. And now we can just evaluate what's happened. Black was forced to include d4. Bishop g4 attack e2. What about it, Codeboy? Yeah, here black has extremely a lot of weaknesses of the light squares. And there's also the immediate threat bishop takes on c6, by the way. Bishop takes on c6 and rook a6 might be something that white would be considering here. So rook f1 happened. And rook c8. Yeah, it's very difficult to suggest anything here for black. What do you mean why b6 is bad? There's no b6. b6 drops a pawn on a6. Ah, that's what you mean. So that's what you mean here, right? Yeah, b6 drops the pawn on a6. Yeah, you're welcome. So d4 had to be played. Now knight e6, Zwischenzug, intermezzo, intermediate, whatever you title it. And takes, rook c8. We are down to the old rule of Aaron Nimzowitsch. Do you remember what it is? Latvian term, I don't know what it is. In Latvia, I don't think we have a term for that. No, I don't think so. Prophylaxis? No, that's not a Latvian term. Overprotection? No. Two weaknesses, exactly. Weakness number one for black is the pawn on b7. Or maybe c5, or maybe the entire queen side is one giant weakness. So we need another. So what Kamsky did, he is looking towards another weakness. So there you go. This might be a potential second weakness. So the idea is very simple. Here, here, here. And this is essentially what Gata did in the next moves. And how do you defend here? Can you tell me a defensive setup for black? How do you unwind this position? How do you remove the knight from c6 so that the pawn on b7 is protected? Bishop takes knight, rook takes knight. The pawn on a6 is protected. Black. This is why black played rook c8, so that he can recapture on c6 with a rook, not with a pawn. But black is just tied to the defense. What? What bishop g2? I already explained it. Bishop c6 is rook c6. Yeah, you can improve the king, try to create a second weakness. So king f7, king g2, king e7, h4. Yeah, how do you defend here? Rook c7 and what? How do you unbind the queen side? So, again, imagine yourself. How do you here, maybe like, I don't know, I mean, here, 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 here. This is so long and creating more weaknesses. There's more weaknesses. That's the problem. I think black is just tied to a very passive defense. Just sit and watch how white is just dominating him. Yeah, so instead of this, he activated the king, h4. And the next move I really like. I really do. So I didn't explain it before, but White was keeping the tension on in the center as long as possible. He didn't take on d4. He didn't play c4. Bishop h. There's no bishop h2. What do you mean? So here what I like about this position, before starting decisive action. Hey Tandro, thank you for your sub. Are you gonna join the sub house against Dina? Again, let me remind you, next Friday we are going to have a sub battle against Dina Belenkaya. Should be fun. Both of us, we are gonna be in the studio and provide you some instructive commentary. It should be fun. I so look forward to this. E3. Yeah, next Friday. 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Central European time. Sub-L by ratings. Yeah. We'll use this official template of 15 boards. I think it was 2200 was the highest, then something lower. By 100 rating points, something like that. Hey, Sashadov. I mean, bishop c6 doesn't work. I already explained it 3 times. Bishop c6, rook takes on c6. The rook is on c8. I mean, black is not taking b takes. I mean, bishop h3. But bishop h3 is targeted the pawn on e6, which is easily defended. But the bishop on e4 is doing 2 functions. It's attacking this weakness on the queen side, and it's going to create another weakness at the king side. Bishop h3 is only creating one single pressure against the pawn on e6. On e4, it's standing simply better. So here, Kamsky first closed the action. He closed the action at the center so that any d takes, b takes might not be missed. The queen side is closed. Black cannot unwind the position, and h4, h5 is gonna income very quickly. Bishop g5. If you want to sub, you can sub now. Yeah, the sub battle is gonna be next Friday. We are gonna make a team before. No, I don't want to play bishop g5. Why do you want to play bishop g5? So, rook h1. Yeah, rook h1, the idea is simple. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I should have explained that. So c4 is also protecting against knight a5 idea. Yeah, I think Sashadov just explained the idea. So that knight a5, there is no counter plan, and black is just ready. I'm sorry, white is just ready to execute h4, h5, and create another threat. It is counterintuitive. It is. Just Gigo. But it's based on a specific idea. Again, let me go back slightly here. So if you play immediately rook h1, so you still need to make sure your opponent has no active ideas. Right. So this is why he played c4. He wasn't going to play c takes on d4 anyway, right? So he is also at the same time removing any active defense ideas for his opponent, and rook h1 is incoming next. So rook h1, b6, finally, Tari untied his defenses at the queen side. This is why he marched with the king towards the queen side, so that he can play b6, so that the pawn on a6 is not lost. So he needs a couple of tempos. a5, rook goes back, and he is somehow keeping it. Hey, 6, 6, and 7. 2 weeks? Yeah, imagine by playing 2 weeks, this could be mind-blowing. Maybe this is slightly more advanced. At least you'll have a better understanding how Grandmasters are thinking. I think to become a Grandmaster, you need something like 10 years. Of active studying and pattern recognition, calculation, position understanding, various structures. Yeah, it's quite difficult, but I hope you'll have at least a better understanding after this bootcamp. So after rook h1, b6, h5, there you go. That's a second weakness. Rook g8. And now the next one. Next one is classic. I just love it. I just love it. How do you capitalize on your advantage here if you are playing with white? If you are Gata Kamsky, what do you do here? Yeah, this is classic. It started really unorthodox, but I mean the conversion is classic. He gave no chance for Tari whatsoever. So which is going to be a weakness we are going to pressure? Yeah, the obvious move is to take the pawn. Yeah, but also, what happens then? H takes. h6 to take on h7. But there is actually a better move, a very important move. Just a second, you want to take on g6? Yeah, but it's defended. Takes, rook h, maybe rook h6. Rook h6, knight e7, then there's knight f5. Maybe this is still extremely pleasant, but I'm not seeing how to crash through anymore. Yeah, 6 and 7, I see that. I mean, 1400, it's also a good goal. I think it's very realistic. Something like, I don't know what's your time frame when you want to reach it. 1 year, maybe less, half a year, maybe a couple of months. It really depends how much time do you invest. If you just start to play for a couple of weeks, if you had no prior knowledge, yeah, it's difficult to tell. Yeah, rook f1, exactly this is what happened. Rook f1 here, so that there's no rook f8 because of million reasons, even bishop h6, or just take on g6. Yeah, just choose. Yep. So bishop e5 was played, but again, I mean, maybe bishop e7 was slightly more to the point, but I think here Kamsky can simplify the position. Certainly not rook f8. Rook f7, rook h7, extra pawn, and this is killing the game. So instead he played bishop e5. Now check here. So his idea was rook takes on h7 is going to be g takes on h5, and he has this counterplay against the pawn on g3. Now the next move is which seals the game. Yeah. Boom! h6. Now this is a weakness. So something like rook h8, bishop g5. I mean, this is literally a zugzwang. There's no moves for black. Nothing moves. I mean, rook on h8 doesn't move, the bishop on e5 doesn't move, the king doesn't move, the knight doesn't move. I mean, I think white can just play king h3, king g2 until king h3, king g2 until black will just run out of moves, and bishop e7 is going to be a big threat if the knight moves away. Yeah, it's doomed to be passive, and this is why black didn't play this. He played knight e7 and bishop g5 here, and an absolute domination. Just black resigned. And after knight e3 check, the game didn't follow like this. I imagine white could simply continue king h3 with all of the same threats. So for example, a Grandmaster sees he can take here, and take on h7, have this very powerful pawn. But in reality, this pawn is going nowhere. The knight on e3 is insignificant, and the bishop on g5 is cutting off quite a lot of squares for access for black. And also bishop e7 is a very big threat. With a discovered check, everything falls. And this pawn is a weakness, this is a weakness. So here with an equal material count on the board, black simply stopped the clock. Yeah, that's how they play it at the highest level. And again, the question is, where did black make a mistake? I think the critical moment was the opening. Queen takes on b3. Yeah, this is very, very hard to believe that queen takes on b3 was... maybe it wasn't really a losing move, but all of the problems started with queen takes on b3. Again, let me remind you this amazing idea which was for black. Instead here was bishop takes on e5, the natural move. But after bishop takes on d5, this idea of knight takes on h2 is crazy. This is just insane. Of idea to play queen d8, attack it here, and play queen h4. It's mind-blowing. But maybe there's even something more simple than this. Something more reactive like queen d6, by the way. Queen d6 threatening to take here as well. So take. Yeah, this also is looking extremely scary. Although knight c4 comes with a tempo. Oh, what is this? Bishop d4. Oh, come on. Take, take. Okay, this is not obvious. So along the lines, I think this is something what black was considering. He was not sure. He missed knight h2. What if the queen trade? Then the bishop is under attack. So here you mean knight h2? Queen trade? This bishop is under attack. And after bishop e6, there's knight f1. Now this bishop is under attack again. But it's easy to miss this. In calculation, especially in calculation, when you're given this position on the board, you have no other choice. You should come to it eventually, especially if you're a grandmaster. But to spot this in one of the alternatives in a variation, totally easy to miss. Unless you are studying puzzles, I don't know, 5 hours a day, then maybe this will be... I mean, I wouldn't really say it's really an absurd computer move, relative impact, but it's not what jumps to your attention. For example, at this position, I would show you at this position, I would tell you bishop e5 is possible because after bishop takes on d5, there is a very nice idea. I would find it. Absolutely, I would find it because I have this information. That bishop takes on e5 is possible because after bishop takes on d5, I have supposedly a nice idea. And I'll be sitting here and I'll be thinking, where is this nice idea? I would find it. I think knight takes on h2, queen d8. It's not obvious, but I would find it. But if I don't have it, if I don't have this information, nobody's telling me, listen, there's this idea. There's something here. He doesn't have it. He still maybe thinks he misplayed this position before, and he has other alternatives to think about as well. The pawn on, maybe he has to take on b3, maybe he has to take on e5 with knight or the bishop, or maybe he has to play queen c6. And in the middle of all of this, to understand that there is this crazy idea, it's very easy. It's very easy to miss it. If bishop e5 was the only idea, then pretty sure he would find it.